IB Nation, welcome back to the Irish Breakdown Podcast, live here on a Friday, which means it's Notre Dame Recruiting Hour. Ryan Roberts joined by my guy Sean Davis, co-host of the Lucky Lefty Podcast, as well as a recruiting analyst here at irishbreakdown.com. Of course, we're going to talk recruiting today, folks. If you are with us on the message board at boards.irishbreakdown.com, you would know right now, because I've had a lot of intel pieces today. We've been putting up additions to the visitor list throughout the last 24, 48 hours because players are setting up both unofficial and official visits for this offseason. So if you're not signed up at boards.irishbreakdown.com, you should go there right now because there is a long list from unofficial, official. We got Blue Gold Game official visitors already as well. So make sure boards.irishbreakdown.com. We're going to touch on a lot of that today, though. In the first section of this podcast, it's going to be the recruiting updates section. So we're talking about a top 5 that was set, a commitment date that was set by a key Notre Dame target. We're going to talk about some players that are going to be back on campus this offseason that are priority recruits for Notre Dame in the 2025 class. We're also going to talk about a 2026 quarterback that is going to be heading to South Bend this offseason as well. Second section, Sean, I know I'm super pumped up about it, man, because with the announcement that NCAA football game is finally back in 2025, I thought, why wait? Let's do a little 2024 preview. Even though we're not going to get a 2024 game, we can still talk about how this Notre Dame team stacks up as far as we're going to predict who would be Notre Dame's top players in an NCAA football game in the year 2024. We're going to give you all some rankings. We're going to give you guys some ratings. We're going to let it fly a little bit on the second one because that is a whole lot of fun and a fun conversation because as a avid player of NCAA football growing up, and I miss NCAA 14 more than most people miss air, we're excited to talk about it. And then we're going to hit in the mailbag at the end, so make sure you throw mailbag questions in at any time at all, and we'll get to that at the end in the third section of this podcast. Sean Davis, how are you, my friends? Long time no see. It feels like, even though I talked to you on the phone about 2 hours ago.
But 2 hours ago? Yo, it is like Friday, man. It's Friday, right? Right. Step closer to Indy for both of us. Like, it's a big weekend in Indy with the NBA All-Star game. And now, right behind that, the Combine. Indy's lit right now.
Yeah.
Indy's lit.
Yeah, it sure is, man, because there's an Indianapolis player that we're going to be talking about during this first section of the podcast as well. So it's coming up soon, man. I literally looked at my phone today, Sean. I was like, it's the 16th of February already. That means I'm going to be in Indianapolis in just 12 days right now. I mean, so it is moving quick. People asking, should clarify this a little bit better. We're not going to have 2024 rosters in the 2025 game, obviously, Sean, but we're still going to talk about the 2024 season because I have no idea who's going to be on the roster for Notre Dame in 2025. Your guess is as good as mine on that, my friends, because we know how quickly college football changes so much. But let's get into some key recruiting topics. Folks, again, this shouldn't be, well, actually, there might be a couple things that maybe you haven't seen already if you're not on the message board or you don't really, search on social media a ton. But let us get into some of the latest recruiting topics, Sean, and talk about the state of Notre Dame recruiting in 2025 in general. Matty Augustine, star offensive tackle out of Greenwich. Sorry, I need to make sure that I get that one out there because I got corrected last time. Greenwich, Connecticut, Brunswick School, 6'7", 290 pounds. He released a top 5 finalist list, which included Notre Dame, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Penn State were the top 5 schools on his list. And he will be making his commitments on the 20th of this month. And if my math is correct, that would make it Tuesday, February 20th. He will make his commitment at 10:30 a.m. So I would assume, haven't gotten verification on this, but I would assume 10:30 a.m. probably means that he's dropping a nice graphic on which school is the school that he will be selecting, right? So
yeah.
We talked about this already on the show earlier this week, Sean, but you feel good about where Notre Dame is going into this decision. They have made him a priority since he camped and visited for the first time last offseason before his 2024 season. So obviously, we feel good about Notre Dame potentially landing Matty Augustine in the 2025 class and pairing him with Owen Strebig and Will Black to potentially be their three-man haul in 2025.
Oh, I love the pickup, right? We can sit here and debate. We knew it was between him and Jack Lang for that last spot, right? And, we can have our opinion on who we think has the higher ceiling. But at the end of the day, it's coaching and development, right? Like whatever you get in, can you get them to a level to where they live up to the Notre Dame standard on the offensive line? He definitely has the frame. So you want to be one of those bigger profile kids that Notre Dame has been recruiting along the offensive line. So you like that. You look at his tape, it's like, okay, cool. But the one thing I love is that, I think we shared this as well. Like, you at Notre Dame, because it's such a unique place, you want to make sure that you get kids that want to be there. Right?
Sure. Yeah.
And I think, the process, we'll see what his ultimate decision is. But I think he's going through a process, and the connection with Ethan Long already being in the class, and I'm sure Ethan Long is constantly in his ear. And, I respect the young man taking his time, seeing what he wants to do. And he's decided to come out and make a decision next Tuesday. We'll see what the decision is. But, I respect the fact that it seems like he's taking his time without, kind of yielding to the pressures of, oh, my teammate is going. No, he took his own path. He took his own path, and I respect that.
He did, because where Augustine is right now, Sean. I mean, I talked about this with you for a couple weeks there. I really felt like Augustine was making sure that he had every variable and everything in it, because it was look, if he chooses Notre Dame, it was kind of an easy decision for him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame brand, Notre Dame offensive line development. He's got a great relationship with Joe Rudolph. Obviously, his teammate, as you said, 2025 safety Ethan Long is already in the class. He loves the staff overall at Notre Dame. That would have been, though, an easy decision for him. He still wanted to see other places. He's been down to Alabama. He's seen all the Midwest powers. He's been on the West Coast. He's been a little bit of everything. It's similar-ish to the Owen Strebig commitment. The situation and the commitment that Owen Strebig had, because you always thought it was Notre Dame, but you also knew that he was going to do his due diligence and look at other places, right? So feel good about where it is with Matty Augustine. And I know people are already asking in the chat about Jack Lang. And I just want to phrase it like this, because this is the intel that we have gathered and what we have been told, right? Is that as of today, the plan is for Notre Dame to take 3 offensive linemen in the 2025 class. Now, as we know, folks, this changes constantly. Could eventually the number be 4? It's possible. Defections happen on a roster. Circumstances change. Things are always in a state of flux in recruiting. So could Notre Dame end up taking 4? It's possible that the number changes. But as of today, we believe number 3 is the number for offensive linemen. So if you want to phrase it as Augustine over Lang, I guess you can do that. I don't think that's quite as simple as that terminology would suggest. I think that they would be very happy with Jack Lang in the class as well. But they like these players, I think, on a very similar level. And Matty Augustine's ready to potentially make that jump, obviously. And if he ends up with Notre Dame on the 20th, I believe that will be the 3-man class. But we will see if that number does change at some point. But as of today, number 3 offensive lineman in 2025 is the number. Let's move on. We had several players setting up official and unofficial visits. Sean, let's start with an unofficial visitor that is scheduled for, let me make sure I have the date correct here. Yes, April 3rd, Sean. We're actually going to talk about 2 different players in this April 3rd window here. So April 3rd, we are expecting Devin Williams, 2025 Buford, Georgia cornerback, to be back on campus. If you remember correctly, junior day, Devin Williams was supposed to make the trip up to Notre Dame a few weekends ago. Unfortunately, we know that there was a pretty substantial ice storm that day, and travel from Georgia down to South Bend was not the best. And I know that his flight had gotten canceled like 3 or 4 times before they finally had to kind of call it and try to make a different decision type of thing. So unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but I had reported at the time that Devin had told me personally that He was very upset about not being able to make the trip, obviously, but he was aiming for a time during spring practice period to come up and see Notre Dame again because he's been there already in the past multiple times. This will be his third trip to campus overall. So Georgia up to South Bend is a pretty telling sign of interest, obviously. And we have reiterated this because we know that Notre Dame is in a good spot with Dallas Golden, cornerback out of Tampa Bay, Berkeley Prep. And they're also in a good spot with Mark Zachary out of Indianapolis, Indiana, Ben Davis. But even if, in this hypothetical, Sean, that if let's say Mark Zachary and Dallas Golden make decisions in the next couple months and they opt for Notre Dame in a hypothetical 3-man class with Cree Thomas, we are told that Notre Dame will still push for Devin Williams because they love the versatility, they love the athlete. They can make that number potentially work. They're at least going to do their best to make that number work. So getting Devin Williams back April 3rd on campus, Sean, to potentially check out a game, practice, during spring ball, I think it's a very good sign and a good thing to see.
Absolutely. Talented kid. You love it, right? I think that we took from, I remember talking about being disappointed that he wasn't going to be able to make it for junior day. But then, like, we were super excited because it was seemed like he was like he wanted to really come. Like, even when it looked like, okay, this isn't going to happen, he was like, yo, can we do this? Or can we do that? He was looking for options to get to South Bend. What makes you, once again, we talk, Ryan, you want kids that want to come and be at Notre Dame. And so it makes you feel good.
Sean, not to cut you off, but to add to your point is Devin Williams was even trying to convince his dad at one point to make the drive up to South Bend, right? When they weren't able to make the trip with the airplane.
I can only imagine the look he got from his dad when that came out of his mouth. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? But kids say stuff like that. Like, the world is so small to them. Like, oh, can we drive? Like, oh yeah, through the mountains, into a snowstorm. Sure, son. Why it's snow, and that's when the snowstorms were everywhere in the country.
Yeah, it was
at that point in time. So, I feel good hearing this. I feel good about how he views Notre Dame and the fact that he's getting back up here to finally make a visit. This class and that secondary, Ryan, look.
Yep.
Woo!
Sean, I've phrased it this way before, man, and I want the chat to get involved in this conversation as well because this is an interactive podcast as we're live. So I love hearing from you all, your perspective. But Sean, I'll put it this way, man. I think I said this on maybe our last week's show on Recruiting Hour. But if I told you hypothetically, Notre Dame gets commitments from in a hypothetical class, let's say they get Cree Thomas, who's already committed. Let's say they get Mark Zachary, who's a top target. Let's say they get Dallas Golden, who's a top target. And let's just say, for argument's sake, they just get the two safeties that they already have committed in the class, Ivan Taylor and Ethan Long. That's the best secondary recruiting class since when? I mean, we're talking about Mark Zachary's a top 65 player by one platform. Dallas Golden, I don't even care where he's ranked. I know he's ranked pretty high by one service, but he's a top 50 player in my opinion. Ivan Taylor's ranked as a top 35 player by two different platforms. Ethan Long is a 4-star that a lot of major schools wanted, right? Cree Thomas is a 4-star caliber football player as well. That's the best secondary class since when? And then you talk about Jadon Blair is still getting recruited hard and has an official setup to Notre Dame. Devin Williams is still a priority for Notre Dame in the 2025 class. If they get one more of those guys, 1 out of 2, that's the best class since I'm asking. Like, I don't know. People in the chat tell me what's the last time Notre Dame had a class like that in the secondary? When's the last time?
I mentioned 15, and we went and looked at it. The Darren Walls class where they had 2 top 5-ish, top 100 players at cornerback coming in. The safeties weren't really that good.
2000. What was the Darren Walls year? I'm trying to remember. It was like
I think it was 15. Was it 15? 16?
No, it was before that, wasn't it?
No, it was early into that. I'm sorry. Because we looked at it.
Was like 2006. Yeah, 2006 was that class. It was 2006. Yep. Yeah. That class was still good though, Sean. But I mean, again, man, if they're able to get a hypothetical class, because I would say today, in my opinion, today, you feel good about where Notre Dame is with Dallas Golden. You feel good about where Notre Dame is with Mark Zachary. Literally, if they just get those two players, that class is stellar, man. Like that's a potentially elite class. If you also get one of Jadon Blair and Devin Williams, I wouldn't trade that secondary class for a single one in the country, man. Not a single one. I wouldn't even think about it. I wouldn't even think about it. That is because then you have options, man. You have options if you get a class like that. I mean, you do because you have so many versatile players there. Because I look at Creed Thomas and say he's a corner, but he could also play safety. He literally does play safety for Brophy Prep, right? You look at Dallas Golden and you're like, that dude can play where the heck he wants. I mean, I could play him outside. I could play him in the nickel. I could play him at safety. I could play on offense if I felt like it. If you get Devin Williams, I'd gladly give Devin Williams a chance on offense if I needed some wide receiver help. Gladly. Same thing when Mark Zachary could definitely play corner on the college level. Like wide receiver, excuse me. Definitely play wide receiver. Jadon Blair is a pretty dang good wide receiver on his level at Mount Tabor as well. So Notre Dame has a chance to not only have an elite class, but I think they have a historic class, Sean. Like forget about elite 2025 class. It could be a historic secondary haul for Notre Dame in 2025. That's how good it is. So good. And Mark Zachary is a big part of that, man. Who again Devin Williams could potentially be a big part of that, who is returning on April 3rd to check out a Notre Dame practice. Segueing, Sean, into a big one. This is a big one. Mark Zachary. And I just put a post on the message board before we got on. There will be a article live at irishbreakdown.com soon. Mark Zachary, Sean. We already knew that Mark was coming back March 22nd for a visit. He was coming on campus next month. You know when else he's coming back, Sean? He's already got an official visit set up for that June 7th to 9th weekend. Already. So he has set up already another official and unofficial visit to Notre Dame this offseason. I'll say it like this. I think that Notre Dame is in a great spot with Mark Zachary. I think they are absolutely the team to beat right now because I felt like for a while there, and we talked about this last time, I think, Michigan was kind of the other school that was like really high on his list, right? Like that, it was kind of a Notre Dame Michigan thing. Well, Michigan lost their secondary coach to the LA Chargers this offseason, which I think definitely helps Notre Dame's cause. There's no doubt about it. But always say this. Read the actions, right? Don't read the words, read the actions. He has an unofficial setup and an official visit, Sean. Is Mark Zachary interested in Notre Dame? I think it's pretty easy to see that interest is definitely on the table.
Yeah. I love this kid, love his film. He played against big-time receivers last year. The competition was great. And just the competition within Indianapolis between Damian Shanklin School and Mark Zachary School, like, that competition just to be the best team in Indianapolis. It's a lot of talented players in both programs. So I think he probably is the 25 version of Carson Hobbs in 24 as far as go look at the players Carson faced. You hold on, you say, okay, what can I hold on to with Carson Hobbs? Like, this is how he stood up against top receivers that he faced.
Funny enough, one of those wide receivers that Carson Hobbs played, funny enough, was Mark Zachary in 2023, which is hilarious.
Yeah. Yep. And so Mark Zachary faced that type of stiff competition on that schedule on their way to, another state championship. So that's what you hold on to. This is a kid that's stepping onto the stage when if he decides to go to Notre Dame, the stage won't be too big for him. It just won't. And he's played well in those moments. So that's what you hold on to. Even if you look at his film and say, mate, I don't see, what I want to see. It's like, he still has another year. The kid has already set up 2 visits. So once again, it seems like he likes Notre Dame. He's following the Owen Streebig vibe. Like, okay, let me keep going. So you feel good about that, right? And Notre Dame should dominate 2 of the top programs in Indianapolis and Indiana and getting their best players.
Well, I was going to say that, Sean. We always talk about Notre Dame locking down Chicago because of its
Mm-hmm.
obviously its relevance to them, only being an hour and a half away. But hey, man, can we talk about the importance of keeping the top in-state kids in the state of Indiana too? I mean, Mark Zachary just got an offer from Alabama. He's got an offer from Georgia. He's got Oregon. He's got all these great schools and universities going after him. So, I mean, speak to that, Sean. Speak to that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping the best players in Indiana, and we're talking about
Yeah.
Mark Zachary, hopefully locking that one down soon. And then also, obviously, they're still going after Damian Shanklin heavy. Notre Dame needs to be able to keep all the best players that they want in the state of Indiana in Indiana moving forward. Have to do it. All right. Well, the other big one I mentioned, so Devin Williams visiting April 3rd, Sean. There's also another big visitor that's coming April 3rd, which I put a piece out yesterday or today. It was reported upon, I think, last night by a national um, element of a certain site, right? So the information had
Mm-hmm.
already been out there a little bit, but I had gotten confirmation this morning, obviously, and I wanted to put it out into the universe. 2025 California linebacker Noah McHale, Laverne, California, goes to Bonita High School. 6'3", 210 pounds. Sean, another elite level prospect. He by 3 different platforms, he's ranked as a top 100 player. By top 75, by I think at least 2 different platforms. Noah McHale, who originally, if you remember, after his sophomore year when he was offered by Notre Dame, called them his dream school, right? That was a long time ago now, though. And he had visited Notre Dame last offseason for the first time. And there was kind of like that waiting game, Sean. When are they going to get Noah McHale back to campus? When is it going to happen? They didn't get him for a game this past season because actually Noah didn't even do much traveling during the season, just in general. But these unofficial trips also from California all the way out to South Bend, it's a little chunk of change, man. That ain't easy. That's not an easy
Absolutely.
trip to make. But luckily, Notre Dame is getting Noah McHale back to campus on April the 3rd for a spring practice. I think that will be big, obviously, Sean. I put in a piece that is out in the universe at irishbreakdown.com. Step 1, get him back for an unofficial. Step 2,
Mm-hmm.
lock in that official, and then hopefully have an opportunity to nail down one of the most talented linebackers in 2025.
Once again, we have been seeing like Max Bullock, in my opinion, early on, early return. I like his evaluation. If he's really the one that's been locking in at the linebacker position, making the offers, doing the evaluations, coach, I like the early returns because I like the offers that are out there. I like the way the linebackers are responding, setting up visits, unofficials, officials for the spring and also going into the summer. So you get a good vibe. This kid is like the one guy. This kid is probably one of the top 3 out of our discussions that we say, yo, okay, this is one of
Yeah.
those guys. It's like, yo, if we can get him, we're cooking with grease. And
Yeah.
so I love it, man. I'm looking forward to having an opportunity. Like I'll be out in Cali in a couple of weeks. And I'm looking
Okay.
forward to having an opportunity to possibly stopping by a couple of schools to like just check in on kids and see what the vibe is surrounding Notre Dame.
California is going to be big for Notre Dame potentially in the 2025 and 2026 class, Sean. I mean, we
Absolutely.
talk about Noah McHale, you talk about Marco Jones. Also in
Mm-hmm.
2026, Notre Dame's targeting a couple very good quarterbacks in the 2026
Absolutely.
class
In
out of the state
26
of
class out of
California
Cali.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So definitely a spot that is going to be of relevance to Notre Dame over the next couple years. So getting Noah McHale back to campus is big. They're also getting a return unofficial visit from Christian Jones, linebacker, Omaha West Side in the state of Nebraska. We, of course, know Omaha West Side because it's where the Rezaks are from. Teddy Rezak, 2025 linebacker signee, as well as Anthony Rezak, preferred walk-on signee for Notre Dame at quarterback. Notre Dame's had some success in Omaha, Sean. Talk about the 2 kids this year. Xavier Watts, different high school, but he came out of Omaha, Nebraska as well. So they are targeting the 2025 linebacker Christian Jones. He's been on the board for a while. We've known this name
Mm-hmm.
for a long time. He made his first trip to Notre Dame this past season during the Ohio State game. He will be heading back to Notre Dame for the spring game on April 20th as for an unofficial visit. He'll be going up with the Rezacs to Notre Dame. And also, Sean, a little bit of a tidbit in that post I put out today. He is also in talks with Notre Dame already of setting up an official visit. So there is a very good possibility that you're going to get 2 visits this offseason from Christian Jones, who is one of the top linebackers in 2025. Like I said already, with getting Mark Zachary locked into an unofficial and official, that's big time, man. Because let's call it what it is, right? Right now, I would say Nebraska is the leader for Christian Jones. That's what I would say, right? He's a Nebraska kid. He knows the university. Notre Dame, though, getting him back on campus potentially twice, that's where you get the opportunity to potentially cut that gap and maybe even take the lead going down the stretch, right? So Notre Dame has a big chance to potentially get in and gain momentum and hopefully gain enough momentum to be the clear leader for a player like Christian Jones, who's one of the most versatile linebackers in 2025 as well.
And take advantage of what you have. And what's the advantage for Notre Dame? Because Nebraska, look, the Nebraska program is being revitalized. You know, they're doing really good things. I think they are. I think their focus in the 24 class was the state of Nebraska. Like, they got a lot of good players out of the state of Nebraska. So they're trying to restore that connection within the state. And, you know, the fan base is that they're the only game in town. So,
right.
You know, for kids
I was gonna
like
say, Sean, even when Nebraska's been down over the last few years, they're still they're like the Cleveland Browns fan base, man, where it's just like, even when they're not great, they're still diehards, right? Like, they still love the program. And I think that Nebraska is going to do a pretty good job of keeping a lot of Nebraska talent in the state of Nebraska because, like you said, that's what they grew up with, man. The Cornhuskers, the red shirts, like they love it, man. They love it. The black shirts, excuse me.
The black shirts. Yeah, they love it. So what is the advantage? Where your program is. They're still in the infancy stage of what they're trying to do. And they're going into a tougher Big Ten. So I'm not sure that they're going to take a major step forward to be in a playoff or anything like that. Yo, you have the opportunity to make big things happen this year as Notre Dame on the field. That's an advantage. Close the gap, like Ryan was saying, in this offseason, and then use the regular season and what's coming and the national brand and the playoff. Use that to possibly sway kids like him away from their heart and maybe what their heart is saying to, yo, this is the best place for me to go win a national championship. That's the way you take advantage of situations like that. You're just in a better position as a program than, say, Matt Rhule in Nebraska right now.
Yep. I think it's said very well. I mean, you need to be able to I think we talked about this, Sean, with like even the state of Arizona in the past, where it's like Notre Dame should try to dip into Arizona because it was before this past year for Arizona football where they actually had a good season. It was like both programs are kind of in transition, right? And they're actually both in transition again here. So you need to be able to dip in when a program's down a little bit, right? Like an in-state program is down. You need to be able to do it. So hopefully Notre Dame's able to make some headway, with a Christian Jones this offseason. I think they'll have a chance, especially if they get him back for an official visit, but they will have, I mean, it's going to be a tough sledding. It is. I mean, if we're being honest with ourselves, right? But I think Notre Dame is up to the challenge. So Christian Jones coming for the blue and gold game on April 20th, also setting up an official visit to Notre Dame. Last piece of recruiting news, Sean, and we'll get into the best part of the show. So we're going to talk about some NCAA college football game. And then we'll hit the mailbag at the end. We'll probably start with the Al Gold news. I don't know if you've seen it in the chat, Sean, but talking about extension being announced and everything. So we'll hit Al Golden, folks. Don't worry. We're just going to save that for the mailbag, obviously.
Yeah.
Last bit of news, Sean. Florida quarterback, 2026 quarterback. Yeah, man, we're talking 2026 quarterbacks now. Let's do it. We've already done it on this show. We've talked about Ryder Lyons and Brady Smeagol and all those types of dudes already. Brady Hart, 6'5", 185-pound quarterback, threw for over 3,600 yards as a sophomore, 41 touchdowns for a very good team, Cocoa High School in the state of Florida. He will be making his first visit to campus this offseason, Sean. Brady Hart is scheduled, and I put out a piece yesterday, or it might have been the day before, but either way, over the last couple days, he will be coming that same weekend as Noah McHale and Devin Williams. He'll be on campus on April the 3rd. A player that Notre Dame was down to see during the open period. I have gotten a chance to watch a bit of his film, and we also had Brian Smith, who was down at a Orlando camp pretty recently, who saw him in campus, saw him in person, Sean. But this kid's long. He obviously needs to fill out. He's wiry right now, but that kid is talented, man. Well, 2026 quarterback class, just in general, not just out of the guys Notre Dame has just offered, just the Notre Dame offers. That class could be special, man. I thought 2025 was really good. 2026 might be even better at quarterback. It's possible.
Yeah, even locally here in the state of Illinois, it's one of the best crops of Power 5, prospects in a long time. And you talk about that nationally. They're just everywhere. I mean, dude, I've yet to watch film of a quarterback that I'm just turned off from in the 26 class. That's a top kid. Like, I would love to go to that Elite 11. That Elite 11 competition, like, yo, let me go. Yes, give me Ryder Lyons and Brady Schmeigel and Brady Hart. Yeah, get it. Yeah. I'll take all of that along with the other top kids. So another impressive young man.
Sean, I was talking to Brian Driscoll about this yesterday, and I truly believe this, right? When we saw the early offers that were out for Notre Dame in the 2025 class, a lot of great players, a lot. I mean, obviously, Bryce Underwood was on that list. George McIntyre was on that list. Deuce Knight was obviously on that list. Antoine Hill was on that list. There was a lot of players I would have been happy with Notre Dame landing in 2025 at quarterback, but there were a couple names, to be completely transparent, that I would have been like, I kind of like those other guys a little bit better, right? 2026, there's definitely one or two that I'd be like, that would be on the top of my list. But overall, if Notre Dame landed any of the 6 quarterbacks that they've offered in 2026, I'd be pretty dang happy, man. And Brady Hart's a part of that, man. That kid's talented. That kid is super talented.
Yeah.
Gino has been down to see him throw. He's been down to the high school during the open period. Get him up on campus. See how he meshes. See how he looks. You already got Brady Schmeigel, obviously, to campus this offseason as well. I know they're trying to get Ryder Lyons and a couple other guys to make the trip, but you got to like where Notre Dame is in 2026 quarterback recruiting, man. Got to love it.
Hey, man, you can cue the Tupac. Do your thing, boy. I ain't mad at you. I mean, like that is the vibe for 26 quarterbacks when it comes to Notre Dame. Like, it doesn't matter which direction they go. I ain't mad at you. I'm not. I'm not.
That Florida crop this year too is pretty wild, man. I mean, I talk about Brady Hart.
Like you talked about California, like it's all like every state has at least 3 to 4 kids where you're like, okay, it's really amazing. And you expect Texas to have some kids. How do you pare down to 11? That's going to be the challenge.
Right. It's going to be hard, man. I mean, even Ohio State has a pretty good early commitment in the St. Clair kid, right? And then, I mean, obviously Notre Dame has an offer Juju Lewis that's committed to USC. So there's a lot of good ones, man. There's a lot of good football players in the 2026 class at quarterback. So I expect Notre Dame to continue that trend because as I put in a article this morning, and we will continue to talk about it, I think Notre Dame's in a good spot with a couple of these quarterbacks, man. Like, you got Brady to come on campus already. You were in a good spot with Ryder Lyons. You obviously are getting Brady Hart to campus as well. Noah Grubbs has been to campus before and is a guy that has been very complimentary of Notre Dame. So I think that Notre Dame is in a great spot there. There's only probably one quarterback on the board right now that I would say Notre Dame has no chance with, right? And that's probably Jared Curtis out of Nashville, Tennessee. That kid's a stud, by the way. That kid is especially good. He's very, very good football player. But regardless, Notre Dame has been putting in some work on the 2026 quarterbacks, and we expect them to continue their hot streak of quarterback recruiting that we've seen over the last couple of years. That's the latest recruiting news. We're going to get into some NCAA college football video game talk here in a second. Before we do, make sure you all hit that like button for us. Subscribe to the podcast. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well if you're listening to us on YouTube. If you all could please also, if you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, or if you're not, you could also go to the podcast platform and leave a 5-star review. Tell them you love Ryan's show, you love Sean, you love the whole Notre Dame Recruiting Hour segment here on Irish Breakdown podcast. and it helps us out. And you can also go to bourseirishbreakdown.com. Like I said, me and Sean have been accumulating a lot of intel pieces about the latest recruits in 2025 over the last few days. Make sure you don't miss any of the recent news here on the Irish Breakdown podcast. All right, Sean, I want to have this conversation because this is more of a fun segment, okay? This is more fun.
Yeah.
Because we have been deprived for years from NCAA college football. Of course, talking about the video game. We have questions about consoles and whether you're a PlayStation guy or you're an Xbox guy. You missed it, right? You had to have missed it. I remember the many hours of playing the road to was it Road to Glory, right? Was the Heisman mode where you're trying to do that, right? Like playing the franchise mode. Like there was so many great parts. I mean, I used to love to just run the triple option for some reason with some of these teams because it didn't make any sense, but it was fun. It was so much fun. So obviously coming back in 2025, Sean, but I don't want the 2024 Notre Dame team to miss out on this, right? So we're going to do a little bit of a preview. Me and Sean ranked our top 5 players going into the 2024 season for Notre Dame, and we're trying to predict what their ranking would be, or their rating, would be on the scale of, I don't, can anybody be a 0 in the game? I don't even know if anybody can be a 0 in the game. It's probably a little bit higher than that, but we know it goes up to 99. 99 overall is obviously the number that you always want to try to get to if you possibly can. But Sean, we're going to do this in ascending order, which means we're going to start at your 5th, number 5 player in the class or on the Notre Dame team in 2024. And we're going to work our way up, baby. I want to hear people's conversations in the chat as well. First and foremost, how excited are you for the video game coming back? And also, and we're not talking about 2024 recruiting class, by the way. We're talking about the 2024 Notre Dame roster. I hope I made that clear. So we're talking about Xavier Watts. We're talking about Mitchell Evans. We're talking about Riley Leonard. We're talking about the Notre Dame football team in 2024, not the 2024 recruiting class. Okay. We're not talking about that team. We're not talking about that section. So, Sean, we're going to go back and forth here. Tell me your 5th player on your list. Tell me who it is. Tell me what their rating is. And let's work through this, baby. Number 5 on your list of top rated Notre Dame football players heading into 2024 on the NCAA football rating scale.
I have Howard Cross.
Okay.
At number 5. His ranking is at 87 for me. I have him at 87.
Ooh. Okay.
Okay. Only because he probably will get bumped up. I don't think his run game would be as impressive as what he does. Yeah, his run game defense is as effective as his pass. Pressures was his thing, right? That's tackles for loss, pressures. That's his game. He's a smaller defensive tackle, but just the ability to just shed blocking, get off tackle, impact the run game. Notre Dame, they struggle to hold teams under 100 yards per average, so that hurts him a little bit. But Howard Cross is at about an 87 for me.
So his quickness is going to be on the higher end, though. Wouldn't you say?
Definitely.
It's going to be pretty dang high.
Pass rushing, all of those spin move is probably going to be high. Finesse move is going to be high. Power move probably won't be as high.
So we have the same number 5 here, Sean. I'm going to try to sneak in who my number 6 guy was because he just missed it. Missed it. But I had Howard Cross also at number 5. I gave him an 89 overall, Sean, so slightly higher, just a little bit, just a little tidbit, because obviously All-American this past year, so he was one of the top defensive tackles in the country. So you expect him to be one of the top defensive tackles going in to the 2024 season. I give him an 89 overall. I think some of the key parts that you hit on, man. My guy's quick, kid's explosive. He's going to be a little smaller, though. I think he's pretty strong for his size, but if we're talking about the ability to anchor and the run game impact, it's not going to be as high as some folks just because he's 270 to 280 pounds. He's just not the biggest guy in the world. But give me 89 overall. Howard Cross to start out this list. Let me give you my number 4, Sean, and we'll go back and forth here, my friend. Number 4, I want Mitchell Evans, tight end, Notre Dame. I gave him a 90 overall, Sean. If you remember what Mitchell Evans was doing before he got hurt, man, arguably top 2 to 3 tight end in college football. I mean, he was on pace to have a gigantic season where I think that he would really rate well on the game. I think hands would be very high. Dude's got some strong mitts. I think ability to work through contact would be very high. I think his run game, as far as run blocking impact, would be pretty high as well. What would keep him down from maybe being in like the mid 90s type of conversation? I think his speed will be solid, good, nothing special, right? But I think that you have the production he had, you have the big body he had, you have the strength that he had. The other thing that I think will be a little low, unfortunately, is the injury rating probably would be a little bit lower for Mitchell because he's had a little bit of durability over the last couple of years. But give me in a tight end group that's pretty wide open going into 2024. There's no Brock Bowers coming back this year, man. There's a little bit of question mark as far as what the hierarchy or tight ends are in college football in 2024. Give me Mitchell Evans with a 90, sneaking in the 90 rating.
Funny because in thinking, I think, Riley, I'll just say it now. Riley Mills was like 6 for me, and he was tied with your guy, Mitchell Evans.
Okay.
The injury just kind of took me off of Mitchell. Like, I was like, I don't know. I don't know if they're going to trust, like, giving him a top 5 rating for the team coming off the injury. And it was late in the season, and he was putting in work for Notre Dame. But I don't think the production was like it was. He just happened to be the tallest midget, if you want to say it that way. Because the Notre Dame passing game.
Don't do that to my guy.
No. I'm not. I'm just saying, like, there was nobody else in the wide receiver room that was really a threat. He was the threat. And that's been familiar to Notre Dame fans, like going into big games, like the tight end is the biggest threat. So it's something we're used to. So it's really not to take away from him. But I think if I'm looking at it as a gamer that's setting the ratings, I would kind of say, well, that's a Notre Dame tight end. That's what they do.
To quote the chat right now in their minds, right now in their minds, Sean Davis is a hater, man. You're like some haterade today, baby.
I'm just trying to make a sensible. I'm just trying to be sensible and look at it as a rater for these. So at 4, I went Chris Mitchell. Wow, and I went Chris Mitchell because I'm first of all because I felt like he feels disrespected by Notre Dame fans based upon what he said to the media. Like, y'all keep calling me a 4-4 guy. Like, I ain't a 4-4 guy. I'm like, excuse me. Like, we would take 4-4 in Notre Dame. Yeah, dude, we're not. If you want to be 4-3, by all means, be 4-3. Do that for us. Please do that for us.
I would love them to be 4-3. Yeah, exactly.
I would love you to be 4-3. I would love you to bring over 70 receptions to Notre Dame. I would love for you to bring over 1,000 yards to Notre Dame. By all means, do that for us. No hate from us. We support anything you can do. And for that reason, I'm going to hype you up a little bit. I'm going to give you a top 5 rating for this year's team. I'm going to put you at number 4, Chris Mitchell. I'm going to put you at number 4 just for that. No disrespect from us and Notre Dame fans.
Yep.
We love you. Bring what you have. Everything you have in your toolbox, bring it. We're ready for it. So I'm going to put you at number 4, and I'm going to give you a rating of 89. I'm going to give you a rating of 89. Your speed is going to be off the charts. Your acceleration is going to be off the charts. Your run after the catch is going to be off the charts. Your catching, your hands, everything. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
So Chris Mitchell, who actually was on my list of people that just missed the cut, Sean. I had him on as like number 7, 8, somewhere in that ballpark. I had him with an 86, 87, somewhere in that. Like, I was kind of going back and forth with the rating. So in your assumption, what is the speed for Chris Mitchell in this game? He's got a perfect 99, or what's he got, man?
Dude, you're not. Hey, man, Chris Mitchell. Hey, man, your speed can be 98. I will not question your speed. I am not questioning your speed. I'll go ahead and give you a 98 speed. 98. as far as like physicality, I'll bring that down a little bit.
Yeah, play strength will be a little limited.
Yeah, physicality, probably be about 60 range, 65 maybe. That'll pull back your total rating. That's why you end up at 89. But look, you're getting all positive vibes from Sean Davis from this day forward, man.
I love it,
from
man.
This day forward, I'm going to take the shot to say you're going to be that dude for us. Number 4 is Chris Mitchell for me, bro.
All right, man. I love it. And we'll talk about a couple guys that maybe just missed our list. I already mentioned that Chris Mitchell was one that just narrowly missed my list here. Number 3. So that was your number 4, right?
Chris that was number 4 for me. Yeah.
Okay. Number 3, and then I'll let you start first on number 2. Number 3 for me. Got to give some love to my guy, Sean. The most accurate kicker in college football the last 2 years, baby. Mitch Jeter. Mitch Jeter's got a 91 overall, man.
You brought the kicker into the top 5. Well played. Well played.
Hey, Sean, I was thinking, who are the most accomplished players on the Notre Dame team heading into 2024? And we'll talk about a couple more of them, specifically probably a couple defensive backs moving forward here, right? But Mitch Jeter, man, I'm like, brother, guy's made 92% of his kicks the last 2 years. He's 23 out of 25. We're talking about accuracy. 98 overall probably in this game, right? Like the dude's just accurate as heck. Super accurate. Style of leg, super accurate. 91 overall for me, Mitch Jeter, baby. Specialist, supreme kicker going into the year 2024. And I hope I didn't just jinx him, because you know how you can jinx kickers sometimes. But Mitch Jeter is my number 3 on the list with a 91 overall.
Needless to say, kicking in the Midwest and at Notre Dame Stadium is a little bit different than kicking in the Carolinas.
Sure.
And the stage is just a little, they mean just a little bit more. First game against Texas College Station.
He had a 48-yarder against Notre Dame, didn't he? Did he hit a 48-yarder against Notre Dame 2 years ago, man? I'm just saying.
Ryan, I'm just saying, man, the stage is a little bit bigger now, But hey, usually if you're good, you're good. If you're good, you're good.
Mitch came on this podcast, and I would just like to say, if Mitchell is listening to this for any, I shouldn't call him Mitchell. I don't know if he goes by that. Mitch Jeter, if you're listening, my friend, I believe in you. All right, I believe in you. Sean Davis, I don't know if he believes in you, but I believe in you. I believe in you, man.
No, I don't believe in him enough to put him in my top 5, but I mean, I believe.
All right, that's fair.
Not that's top fair. 5 belief, but I mean, that's not saying bad things.
Well, who has your number 3 belief then? Who's got your number 3?
Man, belief? Hey, Riley Leonard, baby. Riley Leonard will be
enough,
the 3rd highest ranked. Riley Leonard.
I had Riley Leonard as my number 6. I had him at an 88 overall. He just missed the list, man. I think that he could be a lot higher than that, but I had to keep him down just based upon the injury, man. Just based upon the injury. That's all.
I mean, it was a sprained ankle. I mean, the surgery does, kind of add another aspect to it. It's not like a knee or anything, and it's not a shoulder because he's a quarterback. I feel pretty confident. And he don't have to carry.
Hey, man. You're not going to find
the injury concern.
You're not going to find a guy on the Notre Dame beat, Sean, that is higher on Mr. Riley Leonard as a football player than myself, man. You're not going to find it. I'm just got to look at it.
Just a tidbit.
Holistically.
Let me slide this in here. The argument between Malik and Kent Gibbs from last night's show.
Yeah.
About 13 is well worth your 10 minutes. It's well worth it.
Kenton loves him, right? He's very
high. Dude. Calls him a Lamborghini amongst Volvos when he was at Duke.
Ooh, I like that. He's an NC State guy too, man. So it's not like he's just going out to throw roses at Duke guys, right? Like he's not just throwing roses out there.
It's rare that you get a triangle guy. That's that North Carolina State, North Carolina Duke. It's rare you get a guy from the triangle to show love to other teams in the triangle. So you're right. But he's at 89 for me. He's tied with Chris Mitchell. I show both of them some love. I think the passing game, the run game, he's going to be all 90s. like carrying the ball, physicality, all
Yeah.
of that, breaking tackles. Like, oh, dude,
He'll probably have like an 87, 88 in speed, probably too, right? Like he can move a
yeah,
little
yeah,
bit.
yeah. He can move a little
Yeah.
bit, but then I'll have him like low 80s in the passing game, just because the injuries is why he hasn't had a chance to prove it, and the talent he's played with. It's not a
Agreed.
detractor, but I have to be honest to the stats and what exists out there, right? And I have to rate him accordingly. So that brings him down because he probably would be a little bit higher.
That's fair.
If he wasn't injured last year, but I'll put him at an 89. He's third for me.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I had him as an 88, so we're not too far off on the ranking. I guess I just had a couple guys a little bit higher, just a little touch higher. So, hey man, I'm big on Riley Leonard. If Riley Leonard can stay healthy, I think he could be a superstar, man. I think he has that type of talent to him. It'll just be, see how that transition goes. I love that he's got obviously Mike Denbrock calling offense for him. I think that that's going to be a really good fit. You're number 2, my friend. Cycling back to you here to unveil who's number 2 on your list of top rated Notre Dame players heading into the 2024 season.
This was the battle, my friend.
1 and 2 is the battle, isn't it?
Oh man.
Yep, it's the battle, man.
This was the battle for me. This was the battle. But ultimately I had to go with Benjamin Morrison in my 2 spot, man. I had to go with Benjamin Morrison in my 2 spot, right? And the only thing that really brings down Benjamin Morrison is his tackling. It's definitely going to be his physicality, all those things. But, of course, pass coverage is going to be crazy, whether it's man, zone coverage, he's going to be really good at it. Benjamin Morrison is also a pretty good, they don't do it a lot. He's a pretty good blitzer. So I like that. But he comes in at 93 for me. 93 rating I had him at.
That's hilarious, Sean. You know why that's hilarious? Number 2 for me, Benjamin Morrison, 93 overall. 93 overall. I am a number 2 as well. I did.
Yeah.
I did have a little bit of back and forth conversation in my mind about number 1 and number 2. There's a little bit of a jockeying back and forth there. But the same thing. I think that the difference between our number 1 that we'll talk about here in a second and Benjamin Morrison number 2 is the physicality aspects of it. If we're just talking about the man coverage skills for Benjamin Morrison in the game, we're going to be outrageous, man. They're going to be stupid, right? It's just like man to man, it's going to be dumb. Zone coverage is going to be good. Ball skills, like all that type of stuff is going to be really good. But it's the tackling, man. Like the tackling and the play strength is going to be a little bit down in the game. I would honestly contend that if his play strength and physicality was good, just on a good level, he might be the highest ranked corner in the game. You know what I mean? Like he might potentially be that guy. So
it would be between him and Will Johnson, right?
Yeah, him and Will.
Probably.
And I think the difference between him and Will is that I think that Benjamin Morrison might even be a better just pure cover corner than Will, but Will's 6'2", over 200 pounds, and he's physical, man.
Yeah.
Like he'll get in your face. You know what I mean? So yes, same number 2. We both had Benjamin Morrison at a 93 overall. You both had a 93. So number 1, and we'll start this conversation. I had, as you did as well, I would assume, unless there's a change here, I had Xavier Watts in my number 1 spot. I had Xavier Watts. I gave him a 94 overall, so slightly higher, just a little bit higher, touch higher than Benjamin, because more overall, just good everywhere, right? You saw the physicality. Everyone talks about the interceptions in USC game. You know the play that really stood out to me, Sean, where I was like, oh, he is locked in today? It's when he tagged Marshawn Lloyd on the sideline, where I was like, oh, okay. Tackling got a lot more consistent throughout the year. His physicality got a lot more consistent throughout the course of the end of the stretch of the season. His ball skills were always great. Well, athleticism wise, I think he'll be good all around in that type of game. Like quickness will be good, long speed will be good, man coverage and zone, ability will both be good in that range as well. So Xavier Watts for me, 94 overall, your number 1 ranked player heading into the 2024 season on these ratings.
Yeah, what elevates him above Benjamin Morrison, like you said, the physicality, the playmaking, the ball skills, the big plays he made. So that lends itself to awareness, right? You see big plays, awareness, IQ in the game. That elevates him. I had him at a 94 as well, bro. I had him 1 point higher than Benjamin Morrison, and he's just going to be consistently right there with his ratings. Consistently.
Yeah.
So
just good across the board, right? Like it's like one of those guys where it's just like the consistency across is what's going to. There's just not one area that I look at with Xavier Watson. I'm like, that's really going to drag down his rating, right? Like it's just going to be good all the way across, which is yeah. So a couple guys that I guess were a little bit down the list. You know, as far I mentioned my two biggest ones, Sean. My next two after this was Riley Leonard, was Chris Mitchell. I think that those two are guys that narrowly missed my list. Who were a couple guys that were on the cusp, but maybe didn't quite make it for you?
Well, I look, I think because I'm sure they're going to have the ability that they'll change the ratings as the weeks go on. So I was thinking ahead, like who could possibly be that guy that jumps into the top 5 after they've played 5 games, and in the rating, the guys that rate the games get a chance to see them. I thought about a guy like a Jadarian Price that could possibly, first 5-6 games could just have monster seasons, right? And then I thought about, I had Mitch Jeter as one of those guys that could go, I did have to admit he didn't make the top 5, but I did have him as one of those guys on the precipice. And then just Jeremiah Love, another kid that could just come out and just make big plays, right? But the transfer from Marshall, like, dude, because this is something, I don't know if you saw this. I actually talked about this today. The early analytics say Notre Dame has a chance to be top 10 offensively and defensively. That's what the early analytics say.
I believe it, yeah.
But the early analytics of special teams has them ranked like 50th.
Really?
And that's because what big plays have they gotten in the kick game? Like Jadarian Price had one against USC this year. I don't think they're going to put him back there this year. I think they went and got the young man, the Harrison kid from Marshall, to be able to not even tempt themselves to put Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price back there. Like,
But Harrison's coming off an All-American season though, where I think he had 3 kicks in his career that he took back for the house though. You know what I mean?
Yes. So but part of the SP Plus is about recent history as well.
Okay.
And
so like
Notre
returning
Dame's
production
team,
from the actual squad is
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, so that's why they're not as high, even though they got the Harrison kid. But so that's bears watching, right? I do want the net average in the punt game to kind of increase by like 3 to 5 yards if it can. I would like to see that, right?
You're talking about Notre Dame punting or punt return average? You're talking
about Notre Dame punting. Notre Dame punting, right? And then if we go back 5 to 6 years, the punting game, you just brought it up, they would fair catch you for like 4 straight years. So can that change? Can that improve? We did see some improvement last year in the punt return game. Chris Tyree took one back. Absolutely. Yeah. So you want to see that improvement because special teams in big games, if you have a top 10 offense, top 10 defense, you don't want to be like the 49ers and literally lose a big game on special teams, a muff punt and a missed extra point. Like those two things turn, like literally kind of seal the outcome or change the trajectory of them having a hold in that game. You don't want that to happen. Marty Biaggi and the special teams unit took a step back, I would say, but I mean, that was a high bar the previous year. That was a pretty high bar from special teams that was set. So I didn't expect them to stay at that level, but Mitch Jeter solved the problem of consistency, being able to trust your kicker. Like, it was nice to have a kicker that could kick it 63 yards, but you don't know if it's going to go through the uprights. Like, what good is that?
Right.
Give me the guy that's more like Justin Yoon, 48 yards in. He's dependable. Put it on the board. I'll take that. And if he can give me 53, 55 every now and then, we're good to go. So me, that plays into why this is what I was leading to. The Harrison kid was somebody I was considering strictly off of special teams because I'm like, All-American, like you said, come to Notre Dame. If he gets like 3 returns at Notre Dame in one season, that's pretty much like, yo, this kid is.
Well, that's an interesting conversation because, well, I'll say it like this. Jaden Harrison would not be a highly rated guy as a wide receiver on your depth chart in NCAA, right? Like, would he be like a 70 something? Like, I mean, even though I think I should just watch a little bit of Marshall film, Sean. He's actually a better receiver than I thought he probably was. Like, he looked pretty decent actually to me. But I mean, as a kick returner though, he's got to be high 80s, right? At least. I mean, like he's got to be up there based upon what he's done. Because I was going to say, you know who is honestly probably would have been one of the highest ranked guys for Notre Dame during the 2023 season in the video game would probably be Michael Vincent, right? Like as a long snapper, he would have had to have been like 90, right? I mean, like honestly, he was so good for years. So yeah, man. Here's the last topic. Ready? Last topic, and then we'll get into the mailbag here. Couple guys, I think you mentioned one already. Who are a couple guys that maybe aren't going to be highly rated going into the year because they haven't played a ton or haven't played enough? But you think coming out the year, maybe if there's an update at the end of the season, for instance, you could be like, oh, yeah, that guy going into the 2025 season now in the video game, that's going to be a dude. Because two guys for me, and I'll let you take it over. Two guys for me that I think could be those explode guys, Jeremiah Love and the artist formerly known as Charles Jagasaw at left tackle. I think those are my two guys that actually, and I'll even throw another one. I got to give the defense some love. Christian Gray would also be in that bucket for me as far as like a guy that maybe is like an 80, 81 in the season, but then afterwards you're like, that dude's like an 88, 89, man. Huge jump.
Yeah. Yeah. Christian Gray, definitely. Jeremiah Love, Christian Gray, definitely too. I mean, Mitchell Evans. Like he comes back and proves like I'm healthy and I'm going to give you a full productive season. Yeah, I think he can take a jump. You know, the way I had him rated, not the way you had it, but the way I had him rated, he definitely could take a jump.
Sure.
Let's see. Man, it's going to be interesting.
I mean, Billy Stroud, really I guess, could be a guy. Yeah.
Somebody that could be top 5 end of the year. Jalen Sneed. Let me tell you what. The physical attributes, like, dude,
in the video,
he's going to have the physical attributes. Yeah, his physical attributes going to be crazy. He has the opportunity to be that tackle for loss, 6-sack, double-digit tackle for loss guy, chess piece that Al Golden just unleashes from like different places on the field, and maybe has 2 interceptions as a drop linebacker in certain spots. He has that ability to be an impact player that you say, okay, he's jumped up into the top 5 because the physical attributes are already there. Now it's just about going out there and getting the production to line up with those attributes. Yeah, I think he's a candidate as well.
Yep. And then we got a couple of miscellaneous questions too, Sean. We'll hit during the mailbag because people are asking us like, who's on the cover? Who will we put on the cover? Who are the highest rated players in college football? Not Notre Dame exclusive, obviously. So we'll get into that conversation here, folks, in a second. Make sure we do, because this was our conversation about Notre Dame potential ratings for the 2024 season in the NCAA football video game world. Make sure you hit that like button for us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Notification bell. Please hit it on YouTube. If you listen to us on your favorite podcast platform, 5-star reviews are always very much appreciated. And go for the latest recruiting intel and team intel at boardsirishbreakdown.com. A lot of the visitors that we talked about today has been on the message board for at least a couple hours, at very least, probably more than 24 hours in some cases. So make sure you go there and get all the latest information. But we'll talk to you all now on the mailbag here next on the Irish Breakdown podcast. All right, Sean, let us now, we're going to get in to some mailbag talk. So if anybody is out there and you're just joining the show, let's say, start pumping in mailbag questions, because we are going to get as many as we possibly can here for the next, I don't know, hour or so. We'll see how long it takes, right? And we had, I think, a super chat that's going to start us off here in a second. But again, MB before the question, mailbag before the question, to make sure that we can distinguish what is a mailbag question and what is just general chatter in the chat. You can ask us anything from recruiting to Notre Dame. We'll talk about Al Golden in this conversation as well, because I know that he obviously was just guaranteed an extension by Notre Dame. But there is a super chat, Sean. So let's go to the super chat first. A little bit of Al Golden talk. We had a super chat. Super chats always go to the top of the line, by the way, just for people that don't know out there. Sloppy Joe with the super chat. Thank you so much, Sloppy Joe. It says, fellas, who do you think is the greatest Notre Dame commit and non-Notre Dame of all time? Personally, for him, it would be, or for them, excuse me. Notre Dame would be Manti Te'o. Non-Notre Dame, Marcus Dupree for the University of Oklahoma. Sean, let's start out with the first part of this. The greatest Notre Dame commit. You can keep it to your lifetime, obviously, because I don't remember what happened in the 60s personally. I don't remember those times.
Now.
Greatest Notre Dame commit of your lifetime. Yes.
I'll tell you now, it's gonna be the same person for me. It's Randy Moss.
It's Manti? Randy Moss. Oh well. Yeah.
Randy Moss. Both answers. Randy Moss. The fact they had him committed and the fact that they didn't have him committed. Like, that's it. It's easy for me. And he never played it down.
Cheating, man. It's kind of cheating.
Hey, you're right. Cheating. You're right. It's low-hanging fruit, but I'm grabbing it today.
All right. That's fair. I'm trying to more remember in my lifetime, right? So Randy Moss was even a little bit before like I paid attention to recruiting, obviously. It was a little bit slightly before my time. I was listening. What was Randy Moss's rookie year in the NFL? Was he like a 98 guy? 99? Something like that, right? So I was still a young pup. Something like that. I'm trying to remember.
I thought, wait a minute, you're talking about the year. I thought you were still stuck on. Yeah. I thought you were still stuck on ratings.
For a second. Oh, 98, 99. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, he probably was like a 98,
98 speed, 99 spectacular catch. Yeah, he hit all that in his bag, man. He really did. But of my lifetime, Sean, guys, I remember it probably be Manti, right? I mean, I remember when they got Manti Te'o, and it was like, that was a thing, man. They were like, holy smokes, this Hawaii linebacker.
2009, yeah.
Something like that, man. I remember watching it though, and he had the number 5 in high school. He had the visor. I was like, holy smokes, who is that guy, man? Like, who the heck is that dude, right? So I'd probably go Manti. I'm trying to think of like anybody else that I'm just like, yeah, that was a dude. I mean, Jalen Smith was kind of that guy, right? Like he was a dude for Notre Dame as well. But that was I think what like the greatest though, and I think the greatest because Jalen Smith was a local guy, right? Like Notre Dame needs to be able to get that guy all the time. Getting a big time dude like that from the state of Hawaii, who was probably a heavy USC lean for a long time, it's like that was impactful. And then obviously we know what Manti was able to accomplish in his career, right? Almost a 4-year starter, All-American, Heisman Trophy runner-up, 7 interceptions in 2012. I mean, he was such a tremendous football player. So I'd probably go with Manti. Someone said Jimmy Clausen. Jimmy Clausen was a big one too. I remember when they got Jimmy Clausen, I was like, oh shoot, who's this dude from Thousand Oaks, California, right? Like, whoa, that guy's good, right? So yeah, but I could probably go Manti. You said Randy for your non-guy. Yep.
That 09 class, dude, they weren't even ranked that high nationally. And they literally were the foundation of like the 2012 championship game, that team that went 12-0, like it really taking Notre Dame to the next level. That just goes to show you, like, that's Tyler Eifert, that's Manti, Tyler Eifert. I think Zeke Motto was in that class. Let me pull it, man, just off the top. Heck, Nick Tausch was in that class. Theo Riddick, Calabrese, Sierra Wood, Jake Golick, Zach Martin was in that class. Dude, that was a pretty important. Yeah. And heck, Shaq Evans was a 5-star kid, if I'm not mistaken. No, Shaq, he was 4-star out of Inglewood, California.
And he ended up at UCLA, right? Shaq was pretty
UCLA,
good at UCLA.
Right. That was darn good class, and they were only ranked 21st. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That was like a transformational class for Notre Dame.
Oh yeah. No doubt.
And that wasn't even Brian Kelly. That was a year before.
Sure. I'm trying to think of a guy in my lifetime, Sean, that like landed somewhere else that was like, holy, you know what? Like I'm trying to think. I mean, quarterbacks naturally come to mind a little bit. Like I remember Terrell Pryor. Was he like Gnet, Pennsylvania, right? Where it was like, whoa, who's that kid? Like I remember seeing his highlights for the first time. Matt Barkley coming out of modern day, staying at USC. I know was a big one back in the day. Trying to think. Adrian Peterson, Oklahoma was a big one. I mean, he was a man amongst boys. He's one of the few guys I remember, Adrian Peterson, where it was like, if he could go to the NFL after freshman year of college, he could have.
He
would have been really good. Like he was one of those dudes. Like, yeah, he was pretty good. Yeah, I think those are a couple guys though. Those were a couple guys. I remember them, and it's just Julio Jones was another one I remember. It was just like that dude was different. Going to Alabama was just absolutely different immediately. So there's a couple guys.
Yeah, I agree with
honestly,
that.
Caleb Downs this past year was like that for me. I was like, that dude's sick. He's a sick football player.
Driscoll isn't that high on Caleb Downs, dude.
Who isn't?
Driscoll.
Really? Brian? I thought Brian loved Caleb Downs.
From the show we did together the other day, he was kind of Saturday, he was kind of like, because I was talking about, I forget what we were talking about, but I was just talking about, having a conversation about Texas, right?
Okay.
And people in the chat were saying, Texas is going to blow Michigan out. And I'm like, what? You think Texas is going to blow Michigan out going into the big house week 2? Like, I don't care who the quarterback is for Michigan. Like, I know Quinn Ewers is going to have some problems with that defense. And he was like, I'm not sold on it. He was like, the back end, I'm not sold on the back end of the Michigan defense. He's not as high as on the safeties as we are.
Safeties class is really good, man. Mekhi Page and Rob Moore, they're very good. They're very good.
They're very good. I love both of them. So he was like, I think he's like, I can see Texas going in there and blowing them out. I'm like, all right, okay. All right. Like, that's a culture game. Like, because Texas isn't about to come in there and push Michigan around. There's a chance that Michigan can push them around, though. Because in the trenches, Michigan is still going to be who they are. So that's how we got to Caleb Downs, because I was like, Caleb Downs, my thing was, because he said, look what they did to Alabama. They went in and beat Alabama on the road. I said, that's fine. I said, Caleb Downs, that was his first game. I said, if they had played the same Caleb Downs that had a great game against Georgia in the SEC championship, I don't think Texas does that to Caleb Downs. They took advantage of him in that first game. I don't think they do that in the second matchup. And that's how we got to it. I'm like,
gotcha. I think he's the best safety in college football already. I think he's that guy already. I think he's pretty good, man.
If he had come to Notre Dame, they would have been the best secondary. If he had gone to Michigan, somebody would have had to sit on the bench. And they have 2 really good safeties. He went to Ohio State.
Or they would have ran a 4-2-5 and put like Mekhi Page at Rover or something like that.
Something crazy like that.
Yeah. Downs is very good. Downs is a excellent football player. And I actually agree with that, Sean, about again, I have no idea what Michigan's offense is going to look like in 2024, but defense is going to be pretty dang good, man. It's going to be a good defense. I mean, it is.
Right?
I don't think that it's going to be a blowout either way. I think that'll be a competitive football game. Could Texas win? Sure. Texas could win.
I would pick Texas to win the game.
Right.
I would. Right. If Harbaugh was there, I wouldn't pick them to win the game. But with Sharon Moore, I would definitely pick Texas to win the game. But the trenches, because I know what the 2 big dudes that Texas lost in the middle defensively. Yeah. And they probably have young, talented kids, but you don't have those 2 dudes playing as seniors.
You don't have Byron Murphy and that dude. Yep.
Your secondary is still questionable.
Secondary stinks.
And you lost.
Yeah, it's not good.
And you lost 2 really good receivers. Now you have talented young receivers, but I mean, it's not. Will Johnson is taking one of those dudes away.
Oh yeah, especially that early on in the season. Yeah, I agree with that. Yep, 100%. Yeah.
So schematically, it's like, and people are like, you're showing love to Michigan, too much love to Michigan. I'm like, dude, I'm just looking at this as you should objectively. Like, this isn't just we walk in the building and we're just better than you. That's, ladies and gentlemen.
And
Like,
I'm well, Sean, and I feel like we our hatred for Michigan is also leaving us to also look at like Texas also lost a lot from their team as well. I mean, they lost their top running back. They lost their starting right tackle. They lost their starting center. They lost their two top receivers. They lost their two interior defensive linemen, one of which was an All-American, the other of which is probably going to go in the first round of the 2024 NFL draft. They lost their leading tackler in Jalen Ford. They lost their starting outside corner in Ryan Watts. Like, they lost a lot too. And someone said I'm pushed back on Michigan because they lost a lot on the defense. Okay, I
like
mean,
what?
okay, I understand. Well, no, he's
They
talking about
got two
the
first
defensive
round.
staff. He's talking about the defensive staff. I get it. I get that part.
Oh, the staff. The staff. I don't care.
He's talking about the defensive staff losses.
They got a first round defensive back. They got a first round defensive tackle. They have a kid that made the game winning play on the 4th and goal against Alabama. That was a backup that transferred from Coastal Carolina. Like, what are we talking about? That people are acting like just because Jim Harbaugh left, all of a sudden all the talent they have just left. Like, do you understand? Michigan might have been ranked number 1, number 2 if Jim Harbaugh had stayed.
Well, I would say this about Michigan is that Michigan's not going to be as deep as it was last year as far as total bodies, but I think that there's going to be a lot of
top dudes.
Back, though. I
mean, man.
Yep.
Is Quinn Ewers going to have enough time to throw? That's the question.
Yeah. I don't think that that's a blowout. I definitely don't think it's a blowout. I think it's a close football game. Again, Texas probably wins. I mean, most likely, but I mean, it's still it's gonna be. I just I mean, I'm in the boat, Sean, and I always am like this, right? Like, I hate Michigan. I hate them, but also I can still show respect to people, can I? And be like, yeah, it's still a pretty talented team, man. I don't know. That's just my thing.
It was just interesting. It was just, I was like, yo, now that was the argument. Does Michigan take a step back? And how many steps back do they take? Are they going to lose 4 to 5 games?
Well, yeah, they take a step back. They're not going to go 15-0 and win a national championship next year, right? Like, yes, of course they're going to take a step back, but to act like it's just going to completely fall off and they're going to suck, like, I disagree. I just disagree with that. I just don't
feel the same way.
But yeah, because like you said, man, Will Johnson might be the best corner in college football coming back. Might be the best. The two interior defensive linemen, Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham. I mean, they're both very good. Very good. You mentioned Josiah Stewart, who's coming back, who was pretty good for them at defensive end in 2023. You have you have the head coach who has been steadily establishing a really good offensive line units over the last few years. Why should we assume that although Michigan's losing talent offensive line wise, that they're not going to be able to rebound from that when they have the same guy that's been developing them for years? I mean, that's pretty safe to assume. I think the tight end, Colson Loveland, is probably the best tight end coming back in college football next year, right? I mean, Donovan Edwards is coming back. I mean, there's a lot of talent coming back, man. There's
a lot of talent coming back, man. And I think that whole thing, it kind of was like, all right, I understand the hate we have for Michigan, I mean, dude, the new head coach outcoached Ryan Day, outcoached James Franklin on the road, like,
yeah. Okay. And I just look, Ohio State's going to rank higher in any early ranking that I do. They are, but also, man, let's be honest. I'm not convinced, even with the offensive coaching hire that they made with Chip Kelly, because I'm a big fan of that coaching hire. But I still think there's a mental block of Ohio State versus Michigan right now. I think there's a mental block there, man. I think there is.
In the trenches, right? In the trenches, right?
Well, in the mentality as well. Like, Ohio State is not match physicality with Michigan for the most part the last 3 years. They just haven't. So
yeah,
we'll see. And even if they do take a step back, as far as like if they go 9-3 this year, right? Like that's like oh my God, they're the worst team ever. Like, yes, is anybody predicting them to go 15-0 again and win a national championship? I'm sure not. No. I don't think anybody's out there.
I wouldn't have predicted that. I wouldn't have predicted that if Harbaugh had stayed. I wouldn't have predicted that.
Sure.
But this like 4 to 5 losses, it's like, all right. Could it happen? Heck, anything could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I'm just not ready to crown Texas anything either. I'm just not ready there. Texas
They
has a
haven't
talented team
proven
coming back,
anything.
but they lost a lot of talent too, man. Like we can't say like Michigan
Mm-hmm.
lost all this talent and then just skim by the Texas is losing Jonathan Brooks and AD Mitchell and Xavier Worthy and all these dudes, right? Like they're losing some guys too, man. Like they're losing a lot of guys. So yeah.
Didn't they lose their tight end too? The
Yeah,
Sanders
Jatavion
kid?
Sanders. Yeah, he's in the
Yeah.
draft too. Jatavion Sanders is in the draft too. They lost their top 3 receivers from this past year. Top 3. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Take that into the big house week 2. Have fun.
Yeah. Big house can be a tough place to play as well. So, we'll see. John, let's
Now, I
react
do
before we
like
go
their
to some more
return to
questions.
running backs, though.
Oh, I like the number what's it 23, the
Both their
blue
running
kid, right?
backs I like.
Blue.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Cedric
Yeah.
Baxter, he's a tough runner too.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. They should do pretty well. And this is no downing on Texas at all. I think Texas is heading in a very good direction, but I'm just not ready to say that they're just going to blow out Michigan. Like I'm not ready to say that. Yeah. Wisconsin threw for 400 yards at the big house. Okay. All right. Sure. All right, let's move on. I get it, man. We hate Michigan in the chat. I get it, but we can also be reasonable. They won a national championship. They
How
did
many
just do
yards
that.
did Alabama? How many yards did Alabama and Michael Penix throw for?
Yeah. Well, but it's different teams. Well, 3 of the guys in the secondary that did that are back this year. So,
Because I mean, Louisville put up 38 points on a top 3 defense, didn't they?
They did.
When Notre Dame faced them, right? Dude, pulling up one game.
Oh, and we need to comment in the chat about getting upset. No one's upset. We're having a conversation. Please don't do that stuff, man. I hate that stuff so much. All right, Sean, let's talk about it though. We'll move Al Golden. We'll get into some more questions here. Okay, we've talked about this enough. Al Golden has been reported, including Brian, obviously verifying everything. But Al Golden has been signed to a 4-year contract extension with the University of Notre Dame. I know John Bryce, I think, was one that reported it early on, who's just kind of said that the number that he's going to be making in that 4-year span will most likely make him one of the highest, if not the highest highest paid defensive coordinators in college football. So, Sean, another example of Notre Dame putting their money where their mouth is, man. Putting their money where their mouth is. They now broke the bank for Mike Denbrock. They broke the bank to keep Chad Bowden as the director of recruiting in the staff as well. They now broke the bank to retain Al Golden, who's coming off of a fantastic year in his second year as a defense coordinator. So your initial thoughts to Al Golden being back for another 4 years?
And we talked about this. I think we started to see, first of all, this, I guess amongst those that cover Notre Dame, this really wasn't a secret. Especially once we saw Mike Denbrock get his money and then we saw Chad Bowden get his money, it's like, okay. And it was all about whether or not Al Golden was going to want to get a chance to go to the NFL and the decision he was going to make. But I think I said it. When Al Golden came here, I think Notre Dame was a certain thing for him. And I think what Notre Dame is to him today is totally different than what Notre Dame was to him when he first arrived. I do really think he has fallen in love with coaching with Marcus Freeman, coaching with the rest of the staff, being very comfortable, the transition, and what Max Bullock has meant on the recruiting trail that has allowed him to do certain things. And he has gone face to face with certain linebackers that he has a relationship with or from areas that he's familiar with and been able to attack those, like a Bodie Cahoon, right? Like Anthony Sacca, who he has a familial relationship with. Well, a Penn State familial relationship with when I talk about that. So I think he has gotten to a place where he is really comfortable at Notre Dame. And it was going, even if an NFL job came open, it was going to have to be a great opportunity. for him to leave Notre Dame, because I think he has really grown into the community, the program, the staff, and everything. And it was going to be really hard to pull him away from Notre Dame at this point and what he's established. And I think he has the feeling like, yo, he's just getting started. Like what he's created defensively at Notre Dame, I think because he really hasn't seen the manifestation of draft. Stats wise, he's turned things around. I think he wants to turn things around and go up to the next level. Defensive line, stopping the run, be more complete defensively. I think those are things that he wants to do. He's very Spags-like, in my opinion, on the college level. And you can talk to this. I think those are things that he's chasing. I think he's gotten to the point now where there are things as the DC at Notre Dame, of course, the national championship, but there are things that he wants to chase and he wants to see from his defense, whether it's Benjamin Morrison being first round, Christian Gray being like, now you have a factory of first rounders and becoming dominant year after year after year. That's something that is going to be his legacy that he can see 2-3 years down the line in Notre Dame. And I think ultimately this is like fantastic. 4-year deal, similar money to Mike Denbrock and what he got in his deal. You stack that on top of Chad Bowden, stack that on top of things that we're hearing about other coaches, you know, where discussions might be taking place. Yes, you can't talk about it. We asked Notre Dame to go all in.
And they have.
And they have. And they have. They have. They have. There's nothing. What else can you say? Right? We joked about the whole good steward thing in the email that Jack Swarbrick sent out. Look, that, you know, the Google upgrades to the Google are coming. Upgrades to the athletic facilities are coming. Notre Dame is putting their money where their mouth is, man. And as a fan base, that's all you can ask. That's all you can ask. Now let's see what happens on the field.
I mean, I flash back to last offseason, Sean, where there were a lot of questions on whether the Notre Dame administration was willing to back enough financially to be able to get you to that next level. This offseason has erased that feeling for now, right? Like it has completely erased that feeling because you don't have an administration who is willing to back to get you the best offensive coordinator on the market, to lock down your defensive coordinator who just led one of the best Notre Dame defenses that we've seen in several years, to make sure that your recruiting stays and also gets a promotion in the recruiting staff as well in Chad Bowden. So yes, people are saying in the chat, you just said it, Sean, Notre Dame is putting their money where their mouth is, right? Which is what you needed. And I think that also, for just talking about Al Golden, this is a perfect pairing of offensive and defensive coordinator now for Notre Dame moving forward. Mike Denbrock, wily vet, been at it for a long time. Al Golden, similar, older coach, has been around the block, has been in a lot of different roles. You also have the dynamic, young head coach in Marcus Freeman. I think that's a good balance of power, right? I think it's good. You have a guy that if I'm Marcus Freeman, I can trust Mike Denbrock to run an offense. So maybe I can step back a little bit and let him put his put his fingerprints on that and make it take to that next level. You have a defensive coordinator where Marcus Freeman, even as a defensive guy, can look at Al Golden and what he accomplished in 2023 and say, you do that, man. You do that, and we'll be good. And that allows Marcus Freeman to kind of take that CEO role even to a further step, right? Clock management, time management, the day-to-day responsibilities of a Notre Dame coach. I think that that's smart. I think it's smart, Sean. I think it is, because obviously a head coach is always going to have his imprint on things offensively, defensively, special teams wise, but getting guys in as the coordinator spots that you can trust and you don't have to just oversee every single second of every part of the operation. I think that that's big for Notre Dame. So I love where this Notre Dame staff is going. I love what we have seen from the administration to back up the fall message. And I think Notre Dame has a chance to be very, very good into the future. So big time, man. It's big time. It's probably about the best case scenario if we're talking about coordinators from what we envisioned this offseason, right? Because I mean, there were whispers as far as like just, you know, general people talking as far as like, you know, what if Al Golden gets, an NFL opportunity and a defense coordinator opportunity. And then obviously after the Jared Parker thing, you're like, where does Notre Dame pivot on this decision to find an offensive coordinator? I think getting Mike Denbrock with Al Golden retention moving forward, it's about a best case of an offseason you possibly have if you're Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame staff. So big time, man. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. We had people that were obviously putting that in the chat earlier that I had starred. It's a really good thing to see. Really good thing to see. All right. All right. So, Sean, let's get to some of these questions now. T Guns, Ryan, I called dibs and $5 on handing you your first loss on the new NCAA game. Will you accept the challenge? Tommy, I'll accept the challenge, but you can keep your money after I beat you. Okay. I don't need your money, man. I don't need your money. You save it for one of the truck stops that you're going to frequent on your travels, my friend. I will beat you for free. For free.
See, I don't know about that's you, how Sean. I know you're a gamer. That's how I know you're a gamer. So you're like me.
Hey, man.
People, let me tell you,
it was NCAA. Really good.
Yeah. It was funny because I forget one of the big college football guys, national guys. I remember when Notre Dame went to Ohio State. Like, I kept telling him, like, dude, he's like, yeah, it's a double-digit line. Ohio State's going to blow Notre Dame out. And I'm like, dude, Notre Dame's not going to get blown out. Here are the reasons why. He couldn't refute any one of the reasons I gave him. He couldn't refute it. He just, with the talented Ohio State, refute the reasons I gave you. Refute the reasons I gave you. They're not going to blow them out. It's going to be a fourth quarter game. Play the under. Well, put your money where your mouth is. I said, dude, that's for you. That's courage for you. Money is courage for you. It's not my word is all I need. Yeah. My word. And I came right back after the game and said, my word still stands. What I said stands. So, yeah, Ryan's a man of his word for the game. Like, dude, we don't need money. We don't need money as motivation. Oh, he told you, Sean, Tommy, he's gonna spank. He's gonna spank you. I'll talk for him. Sean, he's gonna spank you.
Sean, he can keep us $5 and I'll play with Rutgers. Yeah, he can have whoever the heck he wants.
Yeah, you come get it. Rutgers. Come get it. Yep. I'll talk for my boy. Come get it. and don't take it personally. Whatever transpires, don't take it personally.
Oh, it's never personal, man.
Hey, I know when I hear a gamer talking. Ryan just told you very respectfully, like, nah, I'm gonna get
because I'm not the like I'm
we're
pretty good
talking
at
trash. We're talking trash right now, dude.
A little bit, man. Like I'm pretty good at Madden, Sean, but there's definitely people out there that are a lot better than me at Madden, right? But NCAA, man, like I could play. I'm pretty good on the sticks, man. Pretty good on the sticks. So Madden, maybe Tommy has a shot, but in NCAA, I doubt it, man. I doubt it. Give me Rutgers. I'll run the triple option with Gavin Wimsett and Kyle Manungai, and you got no chance, Tommy Gudge.
Bro, the fact that you said give me Rutgers.
Give me Rutgers,
disrespectful. Baby. I got to put you on the petty train today, bro. That's super petty.
Tommy can have whoever the heck he wants, man. He can have Notre Dame, he can have Georgia, he can have Ohio State, he can have who the heck he wants, man. Texas apparently is the best team in the country, so he can have Texas if he wants, whoever he wants, man. He can have it.
That man said he's gonna beat you as Greg Schiano. That's what he just said.
All right, let's go to Tommy had a follow-up, Sean. I'll let you answer this one. He said, which set of mechanics will you learn first on the new game, the triple option or the RPO game?
Neither.
Triple option guy in NCAA?
No. I'm a very run pass. I run right. You have to stop me running the ball. I'm running the ball. Please run the ball. Okay. And don't stack the middle because I'm just gonna hit the edges. Like, and don't go to nickel because now, dude, you're going to have to stop the run. I'm going to force you to stop the run. And then I'll just hit you with play action and the flats, and I'll just slowly, methodically break you down. I don't get triple option. I did run triple option with Notre Dame a little bit.
Did you?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, but RPO, because my two teams back in the day were really Florida State and Notre Dame. I just took two different styles.
Styles.
Yeah, two different
different
styles,
yeah.
right? And then I built a dynasty with Northern Illinois from scratch. I had a team like that.
Ooh.
Always had like 3 going at the same time. They kind of like allowed me to do different things. So, but I mean,
I forgot who my team was, Sean. I had a similar one where I took a typically not great football team and built them into a national championship. Maybe like Akron or something. I can't remember, man. Like there was something like that though. It was something like that.
It was always Northern Illinois, and I would recruit a bunch of Chicago kids or a bunch of Illinois kids, and then eventually get to national recruits. Yeah,
nice.
But the run game for me is always the first thing I go to. That's the first thing I always go to.
I'm not gonna lie, man. The RPO game with Riley Leonard running a little read option off of it too. That would be some fun times, man. That would be some fun times. That'd be some fun
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah. That's why I think the greatest miss with this hiatus was Lamar Jackson.
It would have been stealing money. Well, apparently there's a rumor that they might get some of those like historical teams or players like into the game that maybe missed out a little bit. I heard that. I don't know if that's like been verified or not, but yeah, man, if you can get Lamar in that game, that would have been stupid. Like running quarterback power and stuff. Like, all right, man. All right.
It's illegal. It's illegal. How do you defend that?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like he played with scrubs. His receivers were actually pretty decent.
Yeah, he has some good receivers. Yeah. They actually did a pretty good job. Charlie Strong. It was Charlie Strong during that era, was it not, or was it Bobby Petrino again? It might have been Petrino again, right?
Yeah,
I think it was Petrino again at that point.
Yeah,
but yeah, they put some talent on that offense, man. Put some talent.
What if they give you the classic game option? Like which classic game would you want to play? I would want to play that Clemson, that Deshaun versus Lamar game.
Clemson, Louisville. You did miss that. You missed that one, didn't you? Yeah, you did miss that one. Yeah, someone said you missed like Trevor Lawrence too, right? Like, yeah, you missed Trevor Lawrence. Justin Fields with Ohio State, like that would have been pretty fun too.
Ooh, that Clemson Ohio State matchup, Justin Fields versus Trevor. Ooh, that's a classic.
People aren't going to hear this, Sean, either. But you know who else would have been pretty sick in the game is Caleb Williams. He would have been pretty dang sick in the game. Like he would have been really, really good. If we're being honest with ourselves.
How about the Heisman winner from this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah, Jaden would have been very, very Lamar Jackson-ish with how you could have used Jaden Daniels as well.
Heck yeah. Oh, 2019 LSU.
Oh my gosh, Jamar Chase. Yeah, talk about a 99 overall. He would have been a 99 overall. He was insane that year. Absolutely insane. Man.
Yeah.
Man. That was fun. Fun times. Yes. They missed out on a lot, man. They missed out on a lot of opportunities for the game.
I hope they add historical teams and the historical games and allow you to play with either team. Yeah. That would be dope.
That would be fun.
Because
some people were talking about Sean, and I think there was a question about this. So let me try to find it real quick. But someone asked about cover athletes, and I saw an interesting conversation, and I wanted to make sure. Oh yeah, so K-Mac asked, did y'all already talk about who you think will be on the cover? Sean, I saw that someone say this on Twitter, and I think that would be a great idea. I would put all the Heisman Trophy winners since the game ended up until now on the cover, like a kind of a montage almost, as far as like I want Jaden Daniels on there, I want Lamar on there, I want all the guys that we've seen win the Heisman all on there. You know what I mean? Like I think that you can do something cool with the guys that missed out, unfortunately, in the game.
Or since this is not the same era where majority of people get the physical copy. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
You could do it. Everything could change because everybody downloads the game or they do it digitally.
Yep.
So the cover could be somebody different every day. Going to what you just said, right? You go into your game, you download it. It could be Jaden Daniels one day. It could be Lamar Jackson one day. Right? Because everything is like, I don't know how many people, people probably still go and buy the physical copies. It's for kids.
I'll buy
parents
it.
that go to the store. Yeah. But the majority of people download the game straight to the hard drive and just play it from there. So it's a lot. They can really be creative with it. They really can. But I like your idea.
Yeah, I saw someone say that on Twitter, and I thought that was a brilliant idea. I was just like, man, like celebrate all the guys that missed out on it, right? The opportunity to potentially be on the cover. Like, I think that's yeah. So I'm excited for it, man. Well, I think we have one more question, Sean, about the game. I think someone was just asking like what console we play on or something. Let me make sure I find that one before we move on. Oh yeah, it's Tommy Guns, who just said preferred console. Sean, I've always been a PlayStation guy. I played Xbox at like buddies' houses and stuff, but I've always been a PlayStation guy pretty much my entire life. Well, I guess technically I was like a Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis type of guy early on, right? But like when in the bulk of my video game playing lifetime, I've been a PlayStation guy personally.
Same here, but you can still get it on Xbox. Like I'm not that dude that won't play you on Xbox.
See, if Tommy wanted to play me an Xbox instead, he might beat me in Xbox. Like I'm not. I've played Xbox with my friends, like I said, but I'm definitely better at PlayStation.
You're overthinking it. You're overthinking it, bro. You're selling yourself short and you're overthinking it. It's not the transition.
You gotta have
the transition.
On the sticks, man. You gotta have the on the sticks, man. You gotta have it.
Your fingers. If you have magical fingers, it's almost like depending on. I can play Mozart depending on the piano. No, it's like, dude, if you can play, if your fingers are magical, they're magical. It doesn't take that long. I promise you. It doesn't. I've done it. I've had people say I play Xbox and it took me maybe 2 series, and I'm like, oh, okay. Because the game is the game. Thinking the game, seeing the game, the game's the game. And once your fingers get programmed to the new controller, which doesn't take long if you can play, you'll be fine.
I hope they don't mess up the gameplay, Sean, because I actually really like the NCAA gameplay. I thought that was pretty good, you know.
I've heard negative things about the new Madden gameplay. That's what has me a little scared.
I have played the new Madden, and I think they've overdone it on certain parts of the Madden gameplay. I don't play every day like I used to play video games when I was younger, obviously, but yeah, I played with my brother-in-law maybe like a month ago, and I was like, it wasn't bad, but I'm just like, I don't know. There's some attribute to it where I'm just like, this is kind of, I don't know. Some parts that I just didn't love. But, yeah.
At first, I didn't like it. This year I played it and I was like, because I go to the run game. Like I said, that's my thing. Early on, I'm running the ball, and I just didn't like some of the blocking on some of the plays. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on now. Like, if this is power, like, dude, like, why do I have to wait so long for this dude to come around and pull? Like, what's the deal? The gameplay is totally different. Right. And then even the juke move is not as effective as it used to be.
It's not.
So
you're right. It is not. It is not.
It's not.
No.
Yeah.
It may go backwards sometimes. It's weird. Like you'll juke and it'll like lose ground. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? I don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah.
I feel like the sticks are a lot more sensitive now, which I kind of like to a degree. Like I understand why it went there, but like maybe a little touch too much, just a touch at some points. I don't know, but yeah. We'll see what the gameplay is like down the road, though.
It's realistic. Yeah. I can tell you that Madden is very realistic because I played a game with the Kansas City Chiefs with the Kansas City Chiefs, and oh Lord, he no time to throw. The tackles are awful.
Yes,
the tackles are awful.
Yes, that is one good thing about the gameplay. Is I do feel like the action is a lot more realistic. It really is. I mean, like the passing game wise, you can't just have a guy just back there forever, right, and pick you apart. Like defensive linemen do get off blocks a lot more better than they used to, and all that type of stuff, right? So, John Leahy with a recruiting question. Sean said, "Is Notre Dame quarterback recruiting strategy of getting a stud every year going to eventually hurt their depth when quarterbacks transfer? How does Notre Dame ideally see it playing out?" Well, John, for me, I'd love to hear your insight on this, Sean, but I think you have to try to get the best guy every single year because the threat of guys transferring is always going to be there, man. Like it's always going to be there. And we can sit here and say, like, you take a guy that's maybe a little bit down the board, maybe they'll have more realistic expectations as far as like, hey, I'm probably more of a backup or a guy that's going to be starting in third year or fourth year compared to a first or second year guy. But nobody thinks that way. They really don't. They really do not think that way for the most part. There's always going to be a guy that is different in that sense, and a guy that is does think that way a little bit more differently. There's always going to be an outlier. But I think overall, Sean, like the fact that there's so much turnover and guys potentially losing, I think you have to stockpile as much talent in that room as possible and figure it out in the long run. As far as like if you have to take grad transfer, if you have to try to double up in a certain class, I mean, I really think that you have to try to get the best possible every single year, in my opinion.
The last time Notre Dame was able to stack really good quarterbacks, Mike Denbrock was at Notre Dame. So he walks into a situation to where, and I just speak from the camaraderie did not, because we can be realistic. The camaraderie between guys in that room, when you talk about Tommy at the end of his career, Everett, Malik, Deshaun, Brandon, they weren't best of friends. I think Malik had a really good relationship with Brandon. He took Brandon under his wing. Him and Deshaun didn't have the best relationship. Ev and Tommy didn't have the best relationship. And Malik had a ton of respect for Ev, but they didn't hang out like that. Right? But there was a common goal. Like they pushed each other. Yeah. Right. So that's why you go and you get those, you get guys that push one another. You're not trying to build a quarterback room where everyone loves one another. It's like, yo, you want competition. Deuce Knight knows coming in. Like, yo, Kenny and CJ are dudes. He knows that right now. He knows that right now. He talks about it all the time. Like every time I come to visit, I love sitting in on the quarterback meetings with Coach G. The competition is there. And they're totally different types. Like Kenny Minchie is a different type than CJ. Deuce is different than anybody else. Right?
Yes.
Deuce might. So yeah, you go get dudes. You like if you're gonna go get dudes, go dude. Dylan McCullough goes and gets dudes every year. Yeah, and that's different because your quarterback is not going to be shuttling in series after series, play after play. But it's the same thing. It's the same vibe. But so it's built on competition and making each other better. And if they understand that and they want to be there, I don't see quarterbacks just jumping ship unless they get 3 years down the line and the years dictate, yo, if I want to go to the next level, I have to leave. Right? Sort of like what Malik Murphy had to do this year. He didn't have a choice. He really didn't want to leave Steve Sarkisian in Texas, but for what he wants to be, I have to seize this opportunity, go take this opportunity to do what I want to do. So that's what I think you can create at Notre Dame by going after stud quarterbacks.
I think too that it's a numbers game too, Sean. Right? I mean, because look, every position is going to have misses. I mean, every single one. Quarterback has such a small room. I mean, you're lucky if you have 4 scholarship quarterbacks in the room, like at this point, day and age. So you need. I think the more talent you have in a room, the more guarantee that you have that you're going to have a dude in the room. You know what I mean? Like, there's a possibility that you have 4 guys in there, and if you're talking about shuffling, one guy's really talented, one guy's mid-level talented, one guy's maybe not the greatest talent in the world, you're not giving yourself the best opportunity to potentially have a guy that is absolutely a dude, right? Like, so I think that you need to stockpile that room too, just based upon the fact that you have less bodies than every other position for the most part, right? So offensive line, like you have so many bodies, it's like maybe you can afford to mix and match a little bit more because it's a little bit more of a pool to pull from that you'll guarantee yourself that you'll have a few guys that end up being that type of guy. But quarterback, it's just not that way, man. It's just not that way. I mean, development has not been great in the previous circumstances over the last few years. So to make sure that you get a dude out of the room, I think you get as much talent in the room and figure it out. So I'm all for that. I'm all for that conversation here. All for it. Great question, though. Really.
Let me just hypothetically say this.
Yes.
If by chance, because I won't say a name, that would be unfair. If by chance after this spring, a quarterback decides to transfer,
sure,
we're not sitting here fretting,
right?
Because it won't be Riley Leonard.
Right. Yep.
If they lose anybody in their quarterback room, you're still 3 deep, confidently.
Yes.
3 deep.
Agreed. And your least talented guy, Sean, just went out and just played pretty dang well in his one opportunity, right? So, I mean,
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
You're giving yourself a wider margin for error by having as much talent in the room, because if there's an injury or there's a transfer or whatever, having more talented guys gives you a better opportunity to field good options, right? And you want good options at the end of the day. We had Tommy Guns with a question here. Sean, we'll get through a bunch of these here. What is your recruiting strategy in NCAA? Do you tend to go after in-state first? Do you trust the star ranking? Well, Sean, the one NCAA game, I don't know if it's been every single one, but there's options where you can put more money into certain recruits and it'll show you their actual ratings, right? At the end of it. Wasn't that a thing?
Well, see, I remember, didn't it have like when you started off, which recruits were like, it's kind of like the cool, hot, cool, cold thing on like 247 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you start out with that, and I would focus on those guys first, like the guys that were really high, that were like 4 stars, 5 stars, like lock these dudes up, right?
Sure.
And then I had to go just straight flip at least 2 or 3 guys, like guys that were low, going to Alabama or USC.
Yeah. Well, I used to play so much, Sean. I also used to memorize in my mind the faces of the recruits at certain positions. You knew by the faces who was the guy or not. And I think people will know what I'm talking about. Like there used to be a athlete, like a person that was listed as an athlete that you could move the quarterback, and I think you could play a couple different positions. But I remember the generic face that he had. If that guy was that athlete, that guy was going to be like an 82 overall to start out with. Like he was going to be an 82 to start with, no doubt about it. And he had like 91 speed that you could put a quarterback if you felt like it. Like, so you could tell by the generic faces at different positions that was one of the guys, because I used to do that homework thing I was talking about where you would put so much points into a certain player that it started unlocking what their speed is, what their attributes are, and it showed you an actual overall to begin with. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, I mastered the system in NCAA. I figured it out. I had a little bit of the cheat codes in recruiting, man. Because Sean, I used to load up. I used to read the whole first year of classes, right? So then the next year you would have all the true freshmen, all the redshirt freshmen together, and then you would just start building from there. And then you would have like a super team by like year 4, like an absolute super team. That's the way to do it.
How far did you get? Because I think, if I'm not mistaken,
what year? What year? I
think I got up to like 23. I played like 10 seasons. Years? Yeah, I had a dynasty with Notre Dame. No, the 23 season. So I got up to like the 23 season. Yeah.
So you played like 9 years though, right? Like 10 years is what you're saying?
Yeah.
I never went that far. I always used to go to like year 5, and then I would start a franchise back over, because then my first recruiting class was all gone at that point. So then I would go and start a new one. You know what I mean? And then just start from scratch. Type of
with Notre Dame, I would go.
Just keep going. Keep going. Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's funny. Oh man, I missed that game so much. That game was so fun. So fun. I'm so glad it's back. Well, almost back. All right. Good question, Tommy. Always good questions, man. I know I don't trust our ratings. That's why I would always do the homework on the players to figure out what their actual rating was, because I didn't trust the star ratings. I did not trust it at all. All right. We'll just knock this one out real quick. Ina Benami said, better nickname, Squirrel or the artist formerly known as Charles Jagasaw? Oh, artist formerly known as Charles Jagasaw. That's a great name, man. It's a great name.
That's Salty's name for you, right, Squirrel?
Yeah, because I was joking with the whole chat. Like, this was almost 2 years ago, Sean. I was like, yeah, my nickname was Squirrel Roberts when I was younger or something like that, which was a complete joke. People like took it and were like, oh, Squirrel. I'm like, actually wasn't my nickname. It doesn't hurt my feelings at all, but it's fine.
I don't know about that Squirrel one. I'll roll with the artist formerly known as.
I think that Charles Jagasaw could brand that, man. The artist formerly known as Charles Jagasaw. His name has changed twice since we've known him somehow, but it's hilarious, man. Artist formerly known. Ugh, so funny. We had a question here, Sean. Speaking of Michigan, we're talking about Michigan football again. Joe Allen said, should Notre Dame go after Michigan safety Keon Sabb, who just entered the transfer portal?
Mm,
I mean, I would look at him.
he played pretty good as a third safety. He played nickel situations. He played all right.
No, I think he's talented, man. He's very
Yeah,
talented. My thing is though that you already got Rod Hurd, you already got
yeah.
Jordan Clark who could play some
Jordan Clark.
safety. My question would be is like, do you even have a safety spot open? Right? Like that'd be my
Yeah.
first question. If you did have a safety spot open and Keon Seb wanted to come play at Notre Dame, would I look at him? Yeah. Yeah. Sure. I mean, because he's a pretty good player, man. I mean, I remember he had a good national championship game, did he not? I'm trying to remember.
I know he had a pretty good definitely had a pretty good semifinal against Alabama. He made some really nice open field tackles.
Yeah, so he had in that game against Washington, national championship game, he had 6 tackles and 2 pass breakups against Washington. So he had a pretty good game that game.
That works.
He ended the year 28 tackles, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups as a third safety. That's pretty good. And he's listed at 6'1", 208 pounds. So he's a pretty big safety too. So would I look at him? Yeah, I would look at him. I don't know if he would be interested in Notre Dame. I honestly don't know if Notre Dame has a spot open. Like, I just don't know if they have a safety spot. But would I look at him? If I could, sure, I would look at him. Real quick, Aiden Benami. Another one said, Ivan Taylor and Ethan Long, are they locked in? I read so, but confirming. LOL. I get it, Aiden. In the world of recruiting the way it is today, I get it. Yes, I had updates on the message board. I had also articles at irishbreakdown.com, also including Jadon Blair and the coaching change, obviously, of Chris O'Leary leaving Notre Dame for the LA Chargers. Yes, they are locked in to their Notre Dame commitments. They are not locked in. All right, we had Salty with a question here. Sean, he said, what is the progress of action after O'Leary's departure? Is it pursuit of the safeties coach or promotion of Max Bulla? And how is it affecting recruiting? Sean, so here, let's just do the hypothetical here because we don't know how Notre Dame's exactly going to go this way. You could go out and get a safety coach, a new safety coach. You could just promote Max Bulla and you could make Mike Mickens the secondary coach and just a cornerback coach. The question I'll pose to you, excuse me, is what would you prefer them do? What would your preference be there?
A person or what you just explained, that route, that would be fine. I just want whoever is elevated or either found in a search, just make sure they fit what you want. Make sure it's your choice. That's it.
Yeah.
Make sure it's your guy, Marcus Freeman. That's it. That's all I want. That's all I want. I think it's finally gotten to a point where the roster and the staff is what he has wanted and what he has gone after and acquired, whether it's through recruiting or through people leaving and trial and error. So that's what I want. I think they can be effective both ways. If they want to make Mike Mickens, I mean, from a recruiting standpoint, if Mike Mickens is recruiting both defensive backs and safeties, you feel pretty good about that.
You would?
From what we've heard, dude, I know I've watched Max Bullock work exclusively with the linebackers. As a GA, he was given that responsibility, which shows you the respect he has.
And I don't think it was a coincidence that they played a lot better this year when Max Bulla came. I don't think that was a coincidence. I would prefer the latter, personally, Salty. I would prefer them from Max Bulla to the full-time linebacker coach and Mike Mickens to handle the back end because I think that is stability, right? Like you're not bringing in an outside face, but I wouldn't be opposed to a great I'll give an example that someone said on the message board, Sean. If Jim Leonard wanted to come coach safeties at Notre Dame, okay, cool, man. Like we'll make that happen, right? Like absolutely. Very good coach. But I would be more than happy with Max Bulla being promoted and Mike Mickens taking on the role of secondary coach because also that makes Mike Mickens a little bit more money and that maybe will keep him around for a little bit longer as well, potentially, right? So that would be my preference, but I'm not opposed to either option depending what's on the board. So we'll see. We'll see. I think the second one also makes the most sense too, right, Sean? Because you're going up against that clock of Max Bulla not being able to be a GA anymore too, where it's like, how do we keep him here, right? Like, how do we keep him here? So I think that would be And then also, I think it would be an easier transition to Mike Mickens getting to know deeper with the safety recruits and Max Bulla remaining conversation with the linebacker recruits. So I think they can cut off the stability of recruiting either. So I think that option makes the most sense, but we'll see what Notre Dame does, obviously. Adam Benami asked a question that we hit on, I believe, in the first section, Sean, but he just said, do you feel like we are leaving good offensive linemen on the board at just 3? I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, Sean, is that always the case? Because there's every single year at every position, there's a number, right? Like there's a number. So aren't you technically always leaving good players on the board? I mean, sure, I would say so. I mean, it's not even just Jack Lang either. Like there's other good offensive linemen that are on the board technically. But yeah, if you say a 3 and you don't take a Jack Lang, for instance, are you leaving good offensive linemen on the board? Yes. But the numbers still need to make sense at the end of the day, right? It's just, that's where you are. I mean, technically last year, I'll give a different example. Last year, you got Keedron Young and you got Aeneas Williams at running back in the 2024 class, right? Did you technically leave other good backs on the board? Yes, but that's the number, right? Like that's the number that makes sense. And are you upset that you took 2 really good running backs? No. So I think that that's always the case, but I think there is a number that you have to uphold or else you over recruit, roster management goes into flux and things become chaotic. And I don't think you want things to become chaotic all the time.
Yeah.
But I will say this. I think we agree on this, Sean. If you can make 4, if you can make 4 work and you can take Jack Lang, I would make 4 work and take Jack Lang, but I just don't know if you were able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What do you, because Tommy just asked about the cover athlete again a little bit ago, Sean. I just wanted to pose this because we already talked about this. Nick Saban on the cover, is that something that would appeal to you or not really?
Once again, like they have the deluxe, usually they have a deluxe. If you want to give Nick Saban the deluxe cover and then the normal cover to a player, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah. I mean, we're also, look, I think commemorating the greatest coach of this era is awesome. Like, I think that's cool, but also, Sean, I mean, aren't we going to be talking about Nick Saban enough throughout the next few months of like commemorating him for being the greatest coach of all time? I mean, I just, not the greatest coach of all time, greatest coach of this era. I mean, we're going to talk a lot, right? We're going to talk a lot. All right, let's go to next question is from, let's get some new people's mouths in here. Let's go. WJS says best Notre Dame player in the draft that will benefit more by being a free agent, undrafted free agent. It's an interesting question. Sean, I'll go with the guy that's right on the, well, not on the borderline, a guy that I think is going to go a PFA, a priority free agent. I think fit is going to matter a lot for Thomas Harper. I think that that's going to be a guy that, because again, Sean, he's kind of a little bit of a tweener, you know, not necessarily super twitched up to be a true nickel, not necessarily big enough to be a full-time safety all the time. But if he finds the right fit, I think that there's a potential ability for him to stick on a roster, or at least stick on a practice squad. So my pick would be Thomas Harper in this question.
I can see that. I think that's a good look. Let me tell you something, man. I'm interested in actually watching Schrader at the pro day.
Yeah,
like
dude, some
remember how
love, aren't they?
Dude, because I'm sorry, the name is escaping me. Who was the place kicker before Schrader?
Blake Rupe.
Oh, Blake Rupe stole the show at the pro day. Stole the dude. Everybody, because you know all the media is standing there together. And we're like, what the hell was this during the season? I mean, he was hitting everything, kicking the ball through the end zone. Everything they asked him to do, he did it. And then he had like a swag to him. He was walking around like the music was playing. It's like, dude, where was this kid all year? And he ended up, getting picked up by the Saints. So I think Schrader has the same type of physical abilities, man, that if he has a good day,
Sean, Blake Grupe didn't just get picked up by the Saints. He set the Saints rookie record for most field goals made in a season. He had 29 field goals in his first year, man. Like, he had a really good rookie year especially for a priority free agent, man. So Schrader's an interesting one. You know who else is an interesting one is Michael Vincent. If he's a free agent long snapper, it's like go to a spot where you can compete for a long snapping job. I mean, splits are an interesting one because it's all about timing, man. Like it's all about timing and being in that right spot and being the most consistent for like a couple weeks span, and then you're the guy. Like that's really all specialists are kind of judged upon. So yeah, it's another interesting one. Oh, Sean, this is like a rich man's problem right here. Dan V says, who would you prefer, Christian Jones or Marco Jones? Christian Jones, obviously, 2025 linebacker out of Omaha, Nebraska, West Side. Marco Jones is out of the state of California, 2025 player. Sean, who would you prefer, Marco or Christian?
Hold on, let me find my my quarter so I can flip.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let me find it. Let's see.
I'll say this
because
Sean,
I can't Shanahan this one. There's no way I can Shanahan this one. Let me flip. There it is. Tails. I'll take Marco. They're like, dude, what are we talking about? I don't take both. Get greedy. Get both.
Get greedy. Take both.
Why do we have to have one or the other?
I think I would personally, like, if I could only have one, I would probably slightly take Marco. But like, if you got Christian Jones instead, like, cool, brother. Like, you're good, man. I'm not worried about it at all. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not worried about it at all. So it's a good problem to have, though, Sean. Right? Potentially picking between two fantastic players. Insured by Big wanted to ask Ryan, what is your honest assessment on Bryce Underwood? Thanks. And Sean, obviously, you could be a part of this conversation too. That is Bryce Underwood committed to LSU in the 2025 class out of Belleville, Michigan. Sean, I think the kid's a stud, man. I mean, personally, he's 6'3", 205, 208 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. I think he is a great combination of straight line speed. He's been verified in the 4.6s. I know that he has a very good arm. I think he's accurate, and he does nothing but win on the level that he's at, right? So I think Bryce Underwood is probably the top quarterback in 2025, in my opinion. He's worth every part of the 5-star billing and top 10 overall player in 2025 that he gets. He's a really good player. Really good player.
Best quarterback to ever commit to Brian Kelly.
Yes. Agreed. At least most talented. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Most talented, yeah. Because I mean, I guess he got because Jimmy Clausen committed to Charlie Weiss, right?
Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, that was before Brian Kelly. So yeah, I would agree. With that. Yeah.
You have to tip your cap to Brian Kelly on this one.
Yeah, man. Going up to Michigan and getting Bryce Underwood's a big deal. It's a big deal for him. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Great player, man. Great player. All right. We got Ida Benami, who also said, we talked earlier this week about Jerome Bettis Jr. Deuce Knight seems to be pushing for him. Obviously, Mike Denbrock overrides the player, but does that come into consideration at all? Well, I think they're interrelated, Iden, right? Like,
yeah.
Look, Deuce Knight is involved in the process as far as he knows who Notre Dame is pushing for. He knows who Notre Dame wants. You think those beautiful graphics they make where Deuce Knight puts it out, like, who's next? Do you think that those are just Deuce Knight telling him, like, hey, make those guys on that graphic? Like, that's a Notre Dame Deuce Knight collaboration, right? Like, he's a part of the conversation. So does Deuce have any input to, like, wide receivers that he thinks are really good? I'm sure the conversation's been had at some point. I'm sure it has, but ultimately Deuce is a part of the machine of the Notre Dame recruiting office, right? Like, it's a part of the machine.
I don't think he's pushing for Jerome. I think the relationship with Elijah Burris and JB Jr. took a step forward at the junior day. But that goes back to the inside knowledge that Deuce has. Like, Deuce gets the knowledge of who the staff wants.
Exactly.
like Deuce is not a part of the evaluation. Like when I spoke to him, he said, "Yeah, I've watched a couple of guys on film, but I trust the coaches and their evaluation." That was it. Those were his exact words. So I think he's pushing for guys that the staff wants. If you want to put it like that, he's
Part of the
not pushing
machine,
for
man.
guys that he's not pushing for guys that he wants. He's pushing for guys that he. And in the same breath, I think he has a relationship with guys like Jamie French that might be far-fetched in the class, but Deuce is going to continue to try to get them to take a visit. Like, why wouldn't he? Like,
right.
Yeah, if I'm talking to you, who knows what happens? But a player, dude, I don't think any player that's not currently enrolled could ever override. I wouldn't let a player that's a commit override my evaluation. I would.
Yep.
I don't know if that ever happens. It might be some special circumstances where a kid is like, "Yo, this is a kid I played 7-on-7 with. You guys might want to take a look." Maybe that's taking place.
Yeah.
But it would be a rarity.
I think it is definitely a rarity. Yeah. There's not too many players that just get like that leeway of like, oh, that's who you want. Okay, let's go. Let's do that. Right. Like that is definitely a rare thing. I don't think that that's happened much or at all, honestly, in the history. So that I think Stats will definitely lean into those relationships though if it's a guy they want. Like I think it hurts Notre Dame's chances that Deuce Knight and Jerome Bettis Jr. play 7-on-7 ball together? Do I think that hurts his chances? Absolutely not. And do you think that Deuce Knight is in Jerome's ear because of it? Absolutely. I'm guaranteed that happens. Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Let's go to Tommy Guns just asked this, Sean. He just asked for a meetup date in Indianapolis. Tommy, I will have some information out over the next couple days. I promise you, sir. Okay, I promise you. It's still got to work it out, man. You know, I just got my stay done. I just got the plane ride taken care of. You know, there's a lot of miscellaneous things that happen, man. I'll tell you this, though. I will be in town from the 29th to the morning of the 4th. So there will be several days of opportunity there. So it'll be somewhere in that window, but I'll let you know. I will let you know.
Yeah.
All right. We had. This is one that I wanted to pull up a little bit earlier, Sean, but here we are. Jason Smith said, who is your highest rated college football player heading into next season? Overall college football.
Are we talking about just overall or like be it a game?
Well, I guess in the game, it's part of it, right? I mean, so we could say rated overall in the game, I guess. I'm trying to think.
I think Caleb Downs would be a candidate.
Yeah. I was trying to see because 247 Sports actually put out like a top list, and yeah. I mean, Caleb Downs would be very high. So they actually had Ollie Gordon as the only 99 overall, the Oklahoma State running back.
Really?
Yeah, they had him as the highest rated player.
You know who I'm going to play with? I'm like telling you right now.
Okay.
I'm definitely. I might not start a dynasty. But I'm playing with Fafita. Oh, I'm going to play a couple of games with Fafita and McMillan. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I'm very interested in what his ratings will be. But no, I think Caleb Downs would be a really good choice. Ollie Jones at 99. Really?
Ollie Gordon.
Ollie Gordon at 99.
Yeah. He was the only 99 they had on that ranking, which I thought was kind of weird. Like, I mean, he's a great player, but 99 is like that's like a special breed, man. I just don't know if there's a 99 coming back next year. I don't know
if he's that dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely no 99 in the quarterback.
Well, dude, they had so many guys rated super high. Sean, so they had out of this top 10 list, which again, you know, these things are for clicks, obviously, but so they had top 10 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the top 10 were quarterbacks. Okay. 5 of the top 10 were quarterbacks. You want to hear these ratings for these quarterbacks? You ready for this? Who do you think was the highest rated quarterback on this list?
I would probably say Quinn Ewers, but it probably wouldn't be him.
No, it is. Quinn Ewers was the top rated on their list. What do you think they rated him? Where do you think they rated him?
94?
96? 96
Okay.
Quinn. They had Shedeur Sanders at 95 as the second-ranked quarterback. Oh, God. Michael in the chat. Chill out, my guy, because I personally do think Caleb Downs is the best safety in college football. So calm down with the clown show comments, my man. We had Jalen Daniels at 94 from Kansas, Carson Beck at 94, and Dylan Gabriel at 94. Sean, Dylan Gabriel.
That's interesting.
Yeah, too high, man. A little too high on a couple of those quarterbacks, in my opinion. Just a little bit. Good players, but a little bit too high.
Yeah, this certain stuff is not even worth responding to, dude. Just
yeah, I know.
You know, and certain people
they had
cake for 10. I already know where things lie.
All right, let's move on to the next one. We're winding down here, by the way, folks, but there's a couple questions we're still going to get to here. We had a quick one here from Daniel McInnes, who says, does Marco Jones have any future visits planned for Notre Dame? Not as of yet, Daniel, but I expect that to change sometime soon. So I know last time I spoke to him, he was working on some moves, but nothing was solidified at that time. We had... Oh, that's a tough one, Sean. I need some time to think about this one. But Jason Smith said, who are your top 5 head coaches in college football in 2024? Top 5 head coaches in college football. I'm going to pull up a list just so I'm not blankly doing this.
So is this based upon, are we including Kirby's number 1 for me. Kirby's number 1.
Probably right now. Yeah. Yeah. Kirby.
I'm impressed with Kalen DeBoer and what he's done. I am.
Kalen DeBoer
he outcoached Dan Lanning and Steve Sarkisian in 5 games in the course of 2 years. That's pretty impressive.
Dabo Swinney.
I would give it to Dabo just off the strength of, even with the struggles recently, I would consider him a top 5 coach. I would.
It's not gonna be popular, man, but I'm putting Kyle Whittingham in the top 5. I'm putting Kyle Whittingham from Utah in the top 5. I am. I'm putting him in there. No Nick Saban. Jim Harbaugh is obviously gone. Dabo. No. I'm just looking at a list. They had Lincoln Riley.
I wasn't
on this list. No.
I mean, yeah. What's the phrase? The bloom has come off of the rose a little bit. Is that?
Yeah, I think
with Lincoln Riley,
right?
Something like that.
The shine has come off of the
Lost a little bit of the luster that was there.
Brian Kelly. I mean, maybe.
Don't make me do that.
I'm just looking at this list, Sean. There's not a lot of great candidates to be a top 5 coach, because then it's we have Ryan Day listed here at 7. Luke Fickell, James Franklin. It's not a great list, man. It's not a great list.
So I think your boy down at Ole Miss deserves some credit. He's been consistent.
Kiffin, really.
Lane has been. Hey, you can say what you want to say. Ole Miss is not an easy. That's not an easy school to win at.
It's not that.
It's not.
No, I agree.
No, and he has been 10 wins. He's been pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So Lane has learned his lessons, and I think he's in consideration. Ryan Day is not a top 5 head coach. I'm sorry.
No, he's not. He's not.
No, he does less with more. I can't give it to him. I would.
Brian Kelly definitely over Ryan Day. Brian Kelly definitely.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I would definitely take Brian Kelly over Ryan Day.
Yep.
And if you just want to talk about needing to prove it, I was very impressed with the job Jed Fish did at Arizona this year. Very impressed. And he was successful before he got to Arizona. I do want to see what he can do at Washington.
Yeah. Man, we need a couple of these. We need a couple of these younger coaches to kind of ascend over the next couple years, right? Like you need Lane to kind of ascend. Steve Sarkisian, you need some of these guys to ascend a little bit. Mike Norvell is another one.
Cal Whittingham is a good call. He probably would be outside my top 5, but
yeah, I mean, Sean, he's never going to have Utah to the point where you're just like top 5 program, right? But like, if we're just talking about a straight up coach, I mean, I think he's a top 5 coach, man. He's a great coach. He really is. Talk about getting more out of less. That's Kyle Whittingham gets more out of less, man. Like he really does. So yeah. Like the list I saw, which still included Nick Saban and Jim Harbaugh because it was before this past season. They had James Franklin at number 10. Get the F out of here, man, with James Franklin. Please get that out of here, man.
Nah. And Mike Norvell has some, he still has some things to prove.
He does. He's one of those young ascending coaches, though, where he could be there. He could be there pretty soon. He could be.
Yeah, he has some things to prove. There are some guys, honestly, we're just talking about pure coaching. I think what Chuck Martin has done an incredible job in Miami, Ohio. He really has. When you take a look at it. That's not doing it on the big scale, but I'm talking about pure coaching. Yeah.
I mean, like I would say coaching. Like Lance Leopold might be one of those guys too, right? But like you can't justify necessarily putting him there because of he was at Buffalo and at Kansas now, but I mean, he's a heck of a coach, man. He's a really good coach.
Heck of a coach.
And we'll see, man. We shall see. All right, let's get to probably like 2 or 3 more here. I don't know what that question's asking exactly, so I'm going to get rid of that one. Sorry, I just don't know what the question is actually asking me. All right, let's go to. Someone had it was a video question. So it's Sean Stewart said, give 2K Sports another shot at making a college or pro football game. Guarantee EA will end their game because of competition.
I absolutely agree. EA had gotten lazy. Dreamcast came out, and that's when 2K was the designer for Dreamcast when it came out. And then all of a sudden you start to see, because the 2K games, the football and the basketball, were better than the EA games, the NBA Live and the Madden that year. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then the next thing you know, 2K gets bought out or integrated into EA.
Right.
And then the games got better, progressively better. So that 2K, man, 2K deserves a lot of credit for where gaming went.
Yep. I'm going to pull this question up, Sean, just to kind of say, like, I don't know if there's an actual answer to it, but Michael said, names that have plans to visit Notre Dame in spring game that you think may be a make or break, set the tone visit moving forward for first-time visitors. The problem is that there's not a lot of guys that are visiting for the first time is the issue, right? Like Devin Williams has been to Notre Dame in the past. Mark Zachary's been to Notre Dame in the past. Damian Shanklin's been to Notre Dame in the past. Noah McHale has been to Notre Dame in the past. Christian Jones has been to Notre Dame in the past. First-time visitors, like right now that we know of, Sean, is like Brady Hart's, in 2026. I don't know if that's a make or break because I don't know if he's the quarterback that they're going to push for in 2026. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know if that's a make it or break it conversation. So Michael, slightly dodging the question just because I don't know if there's a big pool to pull from as far as guys that have never taken a visit to Notre Dame. So it's just kind of this offseason is more about for the 2025 class, like getting guys that are priorities for you back on campus that have been on campus already before. That's kind of, even if Nathaniel Owusu-Boateng ends up taking another visit, official or unofficial, he has been to Notre Dame already, so it's not like no surprises. Marco Jones has been to Notre Dame. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, I changed my mind, Sean. One guy. I'll give you one guy. Antoine Delorier from Raven Gap, Georgia, the linebacker that was formerly of Canada. He's a potential guy. He's never been to Notre Dame before. If he comes and he kills it and Notre Dame loves him and the personality and everything, maybe he's in the class. Like we'll see. We'll see obviously where that thing moves forward, but I'll give you Antoine Delorier. But again, there's just not a lot of guys that have not visited before that have scheduled visits so far. All right. Sean, I think We just had a comment from Andre Tonsel, and I think we're done unless we had any questions come in. But Andre said, one of the best things about the football game coming back is that you can make your own schedule. You can schedule all those tough teams.
But you can make your own schedule like when the last year.
Yeah.
You could edit your schedule.
You
could choose
your
your open
schedule.
weeks. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the best part too is that like when I would choose like Notre Dame or like one of the independents or whatever, you could choose your schedule every single year because you're not tied into a conference at all. You know what I mean? Like you could have just chose your schedule the whole time. But yeah, I mean, moving forward, that's obviously going to be more of a regularity type of thing. So interesting comment moving us. So folks, that's going to do it for today's show. I hope you all enjoyed. Again, if you missed the first section, we talked about some recent recruiting news for Notre Dame in the 2025 class and a little bit of 2026 news. We also hit on the second part of this podcast, a little bit of early NCAA football video game talk as it pertains to Notre Dame football. And in the mailbag, not only did we hit a little bit on Al Golden's contract extension, we took all your great questions as well. So before you do, make sure you hit that thumbs up. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit the notification bell. You know when a show is coming up next on the channel. If you're listening to your favorite podcast platform, 5-star reviews are very much appreciated. And make sure you go to irishbreakdown.com for all the free content and also boards.irishbreakdown.com and sign up to become a premium subscriber at the site. And we'll talk to you all very soon. Have a great weekend. But for now, it is a farewell here on the Irish Breakdown podcast.